As I say, the app is acting up. So, Professor, do what you got to do for the app, and then when you get a chance, come back up here with us. What's going on, man? I know y'all been seeing what's going on in the news lately about the African Union trying to mobilize their interests over there on the continent of Africa and trying to go ahead and get reparations not only for the transatlantic slave trade but also colonization as well too. And we're gonna touch up on that a little bit tonight and see what's up. See, Professor's back up in here. Let me see, Professor, if I can get you up here again. Hold on. I'm gonna send you the co-host invite. So yeah, I figured this would be as good as any time to touch up on this topic as well too. So shout out to everybody in the space coming in. Y'all make sure y'all go ahead and retweet this out for my people that come on the YouTube. Y'all go ahead and make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like, share, all of that good stuff. Click the notification bell as well too to know whenever we go live with a new broadcast. So shout out to the Newstoter broadcast /X space /podcast. I hope everybody's doing well Tuesday night. What's up, Professor? How you doing? Yep. Can you hear me there, Professor? Okay, Professor was having some issues too. So hopefully,
yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
My bad. Yeah, what's up, brother? How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, what's up, Professor? Just trying to get it in tonight. What's up, Nappy? I see you up in here as well too. You see the title. We're going to be talking about the African Union demanding reparations for slavery and colonization, as well as I think they were also talking about apartheid and everything else as well too. So they threw a few major historical significant events that took place in the continent and world history as well too. And they're trying to go ahead and they're trying to come up with something in terms of trying to get some reparations on that. You got they had a big meeting up there, the 38th African Union Summit, and they were focusing on reparations, leadership, elections. I guess they're just trying to become more of a world player as well too. I'm not against Africa trying to get reparations. I do wonder how it's going to go about for the transatlantic slave trade. I think definitely with colonization, they have a easier path, I believe, in terms of getting that. But the transatlantic slave trade, I'm not exactly sure how they would go about that. And I think that would really open up a can of worms as well too, because whatever they get, you're going to have people in the Western Hemisphere, be in the Americas, the Caribbean, South America, wherever. They're going to feel like, hey, you know what? Whatever y'all getting, y'all need to go ahead and split that right down the middle and make sure we get some of that as well too. So very interesting times we're living in. Hopefully we'll get a number of African people to come up in here tonight as well too to discuss this topic. I would imagine it's going to be a long space. And we like try to keep it 2 hours, and sometimes 2 hours and shorter is even better for me. But I want to have an interesting discussion tonight, and I'm hoping that we hear from a number of our people and they speak on this topic as well too, because I want to get what everybody's talking about. Article after article has been coming out on Newstoter.com. Make sure you guys visit Newstoter.com and stay up to date on breaking Black news in Black America. But a bunch of articles have been coming out. And of course, a bunch of articles in the past couple months have been coming out, not only about Africa and their reparation claim, but also the Caribbean and everything else as well too. So, it's in full swing. I know a lot of people feel like Black Americans have kind of went silent since Trump got in office, and that's not the case at all. I expected to intensify and rev up, and it hasn't gone anywhere at all either, because we're still talking about it right now as well too. So, that's where we're at. I do have a little article I'm gonna touch up on. Professor, what's up, man? You want to speak on anything real quick? Okay, I think Professor may have stepped out the room. I was gonna have Professor if he wanted to come up and talk about it. Yeah, I'm trying to see if you want to speak on the topic real quick. I do have a little short. It's a short, quick article, and I'm hoping we're gonna get some of our people to come up here as well too. But what's your opinion, Professor, about the entire continent of Africa, and I'm assuming as well too. I'm assuming it would also be the North Africa as well too. I'm assuming that they're also part of it. When they say colonization, I'm assuming it's all of them stemming from colonialism, not only to the Western to the transatlantic slavery, but also they're talking about colonialism as well too. So, what's your opinion about that, Professor?
Well, to be honest with you, I definitely don't think they really deserve it because they are part of the issue of selling us off into slavery in the first place. This is part of the problem right here. And as you know, white people will always bring this up. That hey, that's where it started at. Is they was a part of the slave trade, and they were, especially in the Western African side of things. That's where it was at. That's where the majority of it was at. I don't even know if East Africa really was participating in the slave trade, at least as much as Western Africa was. So I just don't think they deserve it because they participated in it. They made sure they profited off of it. Okay. Now you talk about colonization, right? Maybe you can look at it from that standpoint where, you had the white people coming into all the, I guess you could say all of Africa, and they took over natural resources and they basically raped the land of natural resources. You can look at it from that standpoint. Maybe you can get something for that claim, where, of course, now you have the majority of the African continent that's been basically stripped bare from where white people have come in and just taken everything. And then you got other groups too that have come in and have taken everything. So I could see maybe something coming from that part of it. But when you talk about the slavery part of it, these tribes participated in that. They went right along with the white people, which is how white people were able to come in and basically participate and get what they wanted out of here. As far as taking people and placing people into bondage. So I do see the argument when white people say, hey, wait a minute, y'all trying to blame us for this, but hey, wait a minute. These people right here were going right along with this. So I had to ask the people in this space, how do you feel about that? Because I know how I feel about it. That is, the people of Africa do not deserve to get anything but the slavery claim. Now, when you talk about the colonization, that's different. But the slavery part of a claim, I think they just have to leave that out of it because they participated in it. And I'm gonna land right there.
Thank you, Professor. And you and I were pretty much saying some of the same things. Let me give a shout out real quick to Extreme X. Extreme X, thank you for the super chat. Says peace, Black family, peace to you as well. I'm with you on this too. I'm conflicted. Now they definitely deserve something for colonialism. They definitely deserve something for the parts, and we know South Africa, but whatever other parts went through apartheid on the continent, they definitely deserve something for that as well too. Not to mention, all the other little things that any discrimination, anything that was brought in systematic to go ahead and treat them a certain way. I have no issue with that. I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with certain tribes and stuff. Maybe we know the government. We know that there's no governments and nations that go back to the actual to the era of slavery. We know any of the actual empires or whatever that they're no more really for the most part. So how do you break it down? How do you decide who gets what? Are you going by region? If you're talking about, and I'm just talking about the transatlantic slave trade, are you going by region? Or are you going to have to break it down finer to that? Are you going to have to go to actually the tribes and stuff, the actual the people that are descendant of the actual tribes, and you have to figure out which tribes actually fought against it and which tribes actually went along with it as well too. So that's the key issue I'm having when you're talking about trying to give them reparations for the actual transatlantic slave trade. Now here's my thing about it. For the transatlantic slave trade, I think they would need to really speak on behalf of all the folks that got caught up here in the Western Hemisphere as a result of the actual actions that led to, people being sold on that continent. Yeah, they suffered big time from the loss of population and manpower and woman power and everything else, and the bright minds that could have helped them, forge forward and everything else like that. But at the same time, like I say, with there being no governments, with there being no countries that was actually around at that time, who do you decipher is actually that should actually get paid the money when you're talking about the actual the transatlantic slave trade as well too? So that's the issue. And then also, like I said before earlier, I feel like all of those who got caught up in the Western Hemisphere, us over here in America, the Caribbeans, those in Latin America, those in South America and Central America, and all of that, anybody that got caught up as a result of it, if you have an ancestor or anything like that or whatever, wouldn't that money need to actually go to them? Shouldn't you actually, let's say that the West nations, the superpowers from back then, say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and we'll give you guys, and they just give a round number for everything. And I'm talking about colonialism, slave trade, and apartheid. We'll give you guys 25-30 trillion dollars. Okay, we'll give you $30 trillion because it's a continent and it affected every inch of the actual continent as well too. Well, how do you break that down? Do you give colonialism more money? Because you'll have people on the actual continent say, you know what, colonialism actually affected more of us in the actual transatlantic slave trade, because that was basically the west coast of Africa and a few nations or a few kingdoms or whatever, maybe in Central Africa or what. They'll say the North Africans, we didn't have anything to do with it. They'll say the South Africans, we didn't have anything to do with it. They'll say the East Africans, we didn't have anything to do with it. So with the bulk of that money, if you had $30 trillion that was going to be sliced up to Africa, would the bulk of that money go for the actual colonialism? How much would go for actual the actual transatlantic slave trade as well too? So I think you'd have to decipher that and break down the actual numbers. Like I said, I'm sure most of the nations on the actual continent say, more of us was actually impacted by the actual colonialism and the actual slave trade. So they may want to take 20. And I'm just, of course, this is all hypothetical. They may want to take 15 or 20 trillion of that and give it towards this or whatever. And, most of the nations may not have been impacted by apartheid. But if you're talking about just the two major ones, we know the two major ones that they're talking about, colonialism and the actual slave trade. I'm with you, Professor. I think it would be easier if they go ahead and they got the money for colonialism, and maybe the smart move for them would be to go ahead and say, you know what, we'll focus on colonialism and we'll leave the transatlantic slave trade alone, because by opening that door, then, like I say, all of the descendants for people in the quote unquote new world, they would have a legitimate case as well too. They say, well, wait a minute, guys, you just got $15 trillion. You just got $10 trillion. Well, what y'all need to do is go ahead and give us half of that and throw in some land as well too. So that would be the actual case point. I mean, you'd have people from all over the new world saying, hey, we got a right to whatever you guys getting from Great Britain, whatever you getting from Portugal, wherever you getting from France or whoever, we want a piece of that as well too. So that, I'm with you on that part there, Professor. How do you go down and how do you break that up? And then, like I said, you'd have to find which tribes is actually responsible, because all of the kingdoms, all of the empires, all of these people, they're all gone now. So how would you go about actually trying to go ahead and get this thing straightened out? That's my main thing. I would like to know. Like I said, I think you'd have an easier issue doing the actual colonialism, because you could talk about how they carved up all of Africa and this and that or whatever, and then you wouldn't have to pay anybody on the outside of the continent, any of the people over here in the new world. You wouldn't have to break them off anything for colonialism, because their ancestors would already been sold by that time. So that's the issue I'm having right there, because if, like I said, and they're not including, when you start talking about the transatlantic slave trade, I don't hear y'all including, I mean, I get what you're saying and you want to get right, but I don't hear you guys including those who are actually the victims of it. Like I know you'll say that your kingdom, your kingdom was hurt by the actual depopulation of human lives and everything else like that as well too. But the actual people who lost their lives, the actual people who became in bondage for centuries and stuff like that, they are the actual more so the real victims as well too. And I know people had family members there and they lost their family members. You may have had a daughter, a child, a son, whatever, husband, wife, and that person was taken away, never to be seen again. But I don't know. Personally, like I say, to me, you open up Pandora's box. You sit up here and you say that you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna start paying out reparations for the transatlantic slave trade. And like I say, you got a line that forms from America to the Caribbean to South America to Latin America. You're gonna have a bunch of people sitting up here saying, "Hey, man, we got to get a hold of that too as well." What's going on, Miss Stephanie? How you doing? Go ahead and unmute your mic. How you doing tonight?
Hey, salute to everybody in the chat room. The union demands reparations for slavery and colonization. Okay. The colonization I can understand, but as far as slavery, and when they talk about their property stolen, they're talking about us. Okay. So they do want to get monetary gain for the people that they actually sold and got ripped off for just a bunch of broken mirrors, a parasol, and some liquor. So I guess that's what, the whole thing about stolen property. A few years back, there was a Nigerian president who said that the United States should pay them for the people that they took from Nigeria. But I'm like, how can the people that were stolen from Nigeria? I'm like, well, you actually stole them. As a matter of fact, you're still selling people now. So what people are you talking about that were stolen from your land? You're still selling people. So I think that their reparations claim should not be lumped in with ours. I think it's all separate at some point. I think it will kind of dilute what we're actually fighting for. And I think Tariq made a big statement about this the other night. And what he said makes a lot of sense. These people have bragged about selling us. They said we were nothing. So if that, they said that we were nothing. And they, I just find this funny that because they lost, the Democrats lost the election, now everybody wants to talk about reparations. It's really strange to me, but I just thought I would bring that up, but if they get paid for it, they owe us too. Don't forget that. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's my thing right there as well too, Stephanie. Like I said, to me, if you're talking about trying to shoehorn the transatlantic slave trade into it, and then like I say, also let's get this clear: you haven't made amends. So even though you want Europe to make amends with you in terms of transatlantic slave trade, you actually have never made amends with the actual descendants of those you actually the Africa sold off as well too. So before you can actually go ahead to that step, you would need to go ahead and put in place something that's viable and something that that could help those that's actually the descendants of the actual this travesty that took place in history. Go ahead, Professor, you got it.
And see, that's a very good point that you and Stephanie have brought up. Is with this transatlantic slave trade, we would have to actually be included in that because we were the people that was stolen or taken or put in bondage and put into slavery in a new land. But let's remember, we got several European nations that was involved in this slave trade, so we can make those claims as well. Of course, Africa wants to benefit off of it, but we are the ones that should be filing those claims because, let's see, the Dutch, we got the Spaniards, we got the British, we have
the Portuguese.
Yeah, the Portuguese.
We got Germany. Germany, yeah, you got a bunch of them.
Yeah, we got all these European nations involved in this slave trade. So we are the ones that can make that claim really more so than these guys over in Africa. Now, on the colonization, when they talk about colonizing, they can make that, to me, they have a better chance for that claim because a lot of the European nations did colonize in Africa. Okay, so yeah, sure, make that claim. But I think they should stay away from this whole slave trade thing. The slave trade thing, they would have to also pay out to us. And I'm just going to keep it 100. These African people, especially like these ones that be all up on this app running their mouth and stuff, your people are supposed to be paying out to us as well. Because one thing I can say these white people are right about are the fact that you all were involved in that slave trade. And see, that's the thing, Total. How do you know which group was involved? You don't know. All we know is that it was mainly happening over in the Western African side of the continent, right? But we don't really know which tribes. Because I think if we go back in history, most of the tribes were putting each other in slavery. Like they would capture each other, and they would have what they call prisoners of war. And so I think you had just about all these tribes involved in it. So which ones do you decide should pay out what? It's hard to know. So I think they really need to stay out of the slave trade or the slavery claim for reparations. And I think only the Black Americans can make that claim. Okay. And we need to make that claim against the European nations, and we also need to be making a claim against Africa when it comes to reparations. And I think that's really just for our people. And I'm just going to leave it right there.
I think, Professor, in terms of reparations, the claim, and I know, like you said, all of those nations, those European powers, those colonial powers, they all took part in the actual slave trade. For us, it would be hard to narrow it down exactly to say, now when we get to this country here, and then that would be hard too from this country, because then you got to go to colonial America. If you start, we know the United States is responsible, and depending on what some of your family might have been, you could have possibly been even in the Louisiana Purchase territory and stuff that was once French owned or something like that as well too. But I think the easiest things for Black Americans is to focus on the United States in terms of the actual slave trade. Now, Great Britain would be the next one. I mean, England, you could pretty much narrow it down or whatever. The paperwork, I don't know how that would go. I don't know if you're talking about having if you're talking about sticking England on a claim or something like that for Black Americans in this country, then you talk about going back to 1770 something or whatever. So that would be really hard to actually do. But I know the United States. Here's another thing I don't understand. With the African nations, it's great that they're getting together and everything else like that as well too, and hopefully they can put some of that some of that drama aside. But here's the thing. They're smart by having this actual meeting like that, but what is it really going to accomplish? Because here's the thing, in my personal opinion, if they wanted reparations, they could get reparations within the next couple of years at the worst. All they got to do for everybody that's in that meeting, say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put an embargo on all of the Western nations that participate in the slave trade and colonialism and this and that. We will not sell you guys any minerals, resources, this and that or whatever. And then, these people would have to come groveling back to you. Yeah, they're going to hit you back with sanctions. They're going to strip you with health aid and everything else and food aid and this and that, whatever. But then you got 50 some odd countries over there to depend on. And really, even though I'm saying 50 something, I'm going to also including those Muslim countries as well, too, those Arabic countries, I should say, that have really never been, friends of the actual African people over there. But even just exclude them, you got at least 40 some odd nations that they could all pull their resources together, and if they really wanted it, they could get it. I mean, they could get it within a year or two. They could sit there and say, you know what, everything that we got over here, we'll just sit up here and we'll give it to China. We won't give it to anybody. We'll just sit it. We'll just let it stay underneath the ground till you guys come and you actually sign this thing for reparations. What could the Western nations do then, Professor? They went ahead and they said that straight up. They said, you know what? Y'all ain't gonna get no gold, no diamonds. Y'all ain't gonna get nothing out of here. Nothing. And I don't care if you take all the foreign aid. I don't care if you put us on sanctions, this and that or whatever. You're done. Your economy's done. Matter of fact, we will struggle over here for the next 3-4 years. And we'll just barely get by. But guess what? Your whole economies will sink like that. They actually could really go ahead and do that. And they could get their stuff built up and everything in a matter of no time. Within 10 years, they could actually be a superpower if they actually went ahead and say, you know what, we're willing to suffer just to go ahead and get ahead. Now, they're not going to do that But if they did, the reparations and everything that they so were looking for, it'll be there. I see DL says they'll invade. That's a possibility. Now, we know how people are playing. Everybody's playing chess now. Say what you want to. We know the Chinese is over there and they're colonizing as well too. But if that got to the point where they say, you know what, we will invade and this and that, you can always link up with that. You got, like I said, you'd have 40 some odd nations. You got the actual youth on your side. You just need somebody to supply you with the weaponry and everything else. They at times, those African nations have worked with China. They have worked with Russia as well too. So I mean, that would be something that they could do that. He says, DL says they will invade and China and Russia will arm Africa. It would be World War III. That's a possibility, but I don't know. I think if you got those resources, I don't think that they would just go ahead and invade and just take all of the stuff like that as well too, because that would be a PR nightmare as well too. You'd have the UN, they would have to step in. So it's just a thought. It's just, it's the same way those people in the Middle East came up by basically, having the resources right underneath their ground and having everybody extract it, but paying them a price and this and that, whatever. They could do the exact same, except their land is a million times more valuable than what's in the Middle East. Professor, go ahead. You got it. Shout out. I see some of our people up in here. Let me give a shout out real quick to Goddess, Monty. I see Black Majority State, Pink Ice, Ray. What's up? Tech HD3, guys. Make sure you go ahead and share the room tonight. Same with my people over there on YouTube as well. Shout out. I see DL over there. Be nice. Extreme. Guys, definitely leave us some comments so we can go ahead and read them as well, too. Go ahead, Professor. You got it.
Yes, and even though this mug is a South African immigrant, but shout out to South Africa because they are kind of that one group of African people that can relate to us the most on the Black American side. So I'm going to give a little shout out to the South African immigrant that was found not guilty. ASAP Rihanna. Shout out to ASAP Rihanna. He was just found not guilty on all counts. So shout out to that.
You call him ASAP Rihanna. Oh, kind of diss the man.
Well, he married to Rihanna. So
I mean, I know he married to her, but damn, you call the man ASAP Rihanna, like, wow. But I feel you.
Look, the only reason I know who this man is, he married to Rihanna. There you go. And look, they both immigrants. There you go. So anyway, shout out to the South African immigrant. He was found not guilty on what is it? 12. I think it was 12 counts. So he actually passed the test in a system that usually goes against somebody that's dark skinned. So anyway, but I just want to say, Toto, back to that claim against the European nations. You're right. We need to change that because you couldn't really bring in all of the European nations because it would be so hard to go back to the 17, maybe even the 1600s.
Yeah, you could actually go back to the 1600s. You'd have to go back to the actual 1600s too. Really, if you talk about getting all of them, then you got to talk about colonial Spain. Then you got France. Then you got the U.S. You got Great Britain. Really, you have ancestors. You'll have some of us that'll have ancestors that go back to the very beginning. We'll have ancestors that may have possibly been enslaved by all four of these and not only and don't even talk about the ones up north with the Dutch and everything else and stuff and in the New York sections and stuff like that as well too. So I mean, you could quite possibly have some family members that may have been enslaved or in bondage under anywhere from 3 to 5 nations, European nations.
And that is hard to do, man. Really, the only nation that we really could lay a finger on would be Great Britain. You was right about that, because Great Britain is that one nation that had close ties to this land more so than the others. The other ones were only here, I guess you could say, for like colonizing, but they kind of went on about their way. And Great Britain came in and just kind of took over everything. So really, I guess Great Britain would be the one you would really have to land your finger on if you just wanted to make a claim against a European nation. Because of the 13 colonies. So I guess you could actually make that claim.
Oh yeah, you can make that claim with Great Britain, like I said, because now the paperwork would add up, but then like I said, you would still have to go back to the 1700s, the mid to late 1700s or whatever, and that might not be the easiest thing. We know we hear everybody saying the first census or the census of 1870, which would be the easiest way of tracking the actual lineage. So imagine potentially going back 100 years. I mean, who knows if at the time when it was a colonial or the continental U.S., if they even had a census at that time as well too. So it would be hard. Now we know these people were they kept track of records and everything else like that as well too, but it would just be really, really hard. I mean, it's not impossible because, you got the technology and everything. I'm sure Ancestry.com and some of these other sites could help you track it, but it would be really, really hard to actually go back and do it. And then, like I say, our main claim anyways is with the United States. I don't know exactly, like I say, what in terms of this here. And anybody that wants to speak as well, too, guys, feel free to come up. We're talking about the African Union making demands about reparations for both slavery and colonialism as well, too. So feel free to come on up here and speak on that, guys. We would love to hear what you guys got to say. Matter of fact, I'm going to read this article real quick because pretty much everything we're talking up on is our curation partner, the Neo Jim Crow. I'm just going to highlight some of it. 38th African Union Summit focuses on reparations, leaderships, and elections. A lot of these names, these African names, I'll be honest, I don't want to mispronounce them and say anything, so I may just go by just read the actual title that the people actually hold, because some of the names are, not the easiest to pronounce. And say, the 30th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly, the heads of state and government opened at the AU headquarters in the capital, Ethiopia, focus on reparations and the election of senior AU Commission leadership. The two-day meeting comprising African leaders from the AU members and heads of different international and regional organizations is held under the AU's theme for the year 2025, Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparations. So I wonder if they're talking about justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations, how exactly are we intertwined in their quest for reparations as well, too? That'd be a good question to ask if we actually got a chance to speak to some of these people. Beyond reparations as a theme of the year, various critical issues of continental concern, including regional peace, security, continental development, the reform of the AU, and Africa's increased presence on the international stage took center stage at the AU summit. It was reported addressing the opening session. The president of Mauritania and chairperson of the AU 2024 said, despite progress, the African continent is in urgent need to expedite concentrated efforts in addressing the compounded effects of insecurity, climate change, and socio-economic challenges in line with the shifting global landscape. We need the efforts of each and every one of us as part of a collective effort in order to meet these challenges. You told the African leaders, echoing the sentiment. Outgoing chairperson of the AU Commission highlighted the development, peace, and security challenges affecting the African continent over the past years and his final years to the Assembly of African Heads of State and Government during his two-term, 8-year tenure at the helm of the AU Commission. Faki highlighted the impacts of economic distress, the surge in conflict, and insecurity situations, as well as the adverse effects of global uncertainties as some challenges affecting the continent's current development aspirations. In fact, he said the past year was marked by a stronger representation of the Africa and the AU on the international stage, including the AU's full-year membership at the Group of 20 G20 since its membership back in September 23, eventually giving a greater voice and more representation to Africa and the rest of the developing world. The membership of the African Union, the G20, and the BRICS, in which several African countries are members, have crowned Africa's visibility, said Faki. According to the AU, this year's theme, which has officially launched on the summit, underscores the importance of addressing historical injustices stemming from colonialism, transatlantic enslavement, apartheid, and systematic discrimination, highlighting the importance of the theme UN Secretary General said the African continent is a victim of two colossal compounded injustices, referring to the profound impact of colonialism and the transit of slave trade on one hand, and Africa's lack of representation on the global stage on the other. Decolonization alone in itself was not a panacea. Political independence did not free countries from structures based on exploitation and decades of economic, social, and institutional underinvestment. It is high time for reparatory justice frameworks to be put in place, he said. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, for his part, called on African leaders to embrace technological advancements to foster continental development, unity, peace, and security. He called on African leaders to join hands in harnessing the immense potential we hold, not just as individual nations, but as a united and dynamic continent. So yeah, pretty much touched on everything they were saying in terms of the actual in terms of like I say, slavery, transatlantic slave trade and colonialism. Professor, I wonder why they didn't throw in the actual sub-Saharan slave trade into that as well, too, since they did cover these other ones, and the sub-Saharan slave trade went on much longer, and than the actual transatlantic slave trade. You got any ideas why they may not have thrown that in there? I guess people may say, well, that was so long ago and this and that or whatever. I don't know if they're saying that the nations, maybe those nations aren't around anymore as well, too, but just curious of why they didn't throw that in there as well too. That would have made some sense as well too. Because you really don't hear much about the sub-Saharan slave trade as well too. But that's something that they could also offered up as well too. What kind of money, Professor, if they were to go ahead and get this thing started? How much money? Because I think I heard somebody say. Did I hear somebody say something like $100 trillion that they were trying to get or something like that? I heard somebody throw that number out.
Well, they trying to get up in the trillions, but I'm not sure the exact amount of it. But they are trying to get way up there in those $1 trillion amounts because they feel like that this thing goes way back, with colonization. Then you got slavery included, so you double the money between the two, right? I say though the sub-Saharan was so far back, that's probably why they couldn't throw that in there, because you got to dig way into it. So that might be something that they just can't really do. Kind of like what we were talking about with our situation, where we trying to see if we can go far back with the colonial days in America, with the Dutch and I guess you can throw the Portuguese and French and the Finnish, all of them, because all of them been over here. So I guess at some point you have to have some kind of cutoff on how far you can really go back with this stuff. So that's the only thing I can think of, totally, the reason why they didn't throw that in there. Because, really, man, you can go so far back with this. How much money can you really collect off of this stuff, man? And they already don't want to pay it as is. I'm talking about just with our claim. They don't want to pay it.
And see, I'm sorry, Professor. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, they don't want to pay our claim just going back to the 1800s. They don't want to pay it.
And see, that's the thing too, Professor, real quick, is that I think they're feeling the heat, globally. A lot of these colonial Western nations and stuff like that, they thinking like, because you got Poland and stuff be trying to hit people back for World War II and everything else, and they like this whole reparation kick started to go and just tick up in the past 5-6 years because of everything that Black Americans was doing over here. So this thing done caught on globally. You got India sitting up here saying, "Hey, y'all owe us." They was talking about trillions of dollars. I forgot how much they talk about Great Britain owed them and stuff like that for colonialism and everything as well too. So I think these Western nations, where you got France, you got Great Britain, you got look how little Portugal and Spain are in terms of actual size. These little nations here thinking like, damn, like how can we even exist if we even paid these people a fraction of what they asking for? That's why you start hearing things like people saying, well, everybody was enslaved at one time. everybody went through it. Because they like, hey man, we can't afford to pay this kind of money right here. If we pay the black people, then we got to pay these Asians, and we got to pay these Native Americans, and we got to pay this group, we got to pay that group, we got to pay groups in Europe that we took it to and did things to. Like hell, we talking about third world. We'll be a fifth world nation ourselves, and we went ahead and we extended ourselves out like that. So that's another thing that I think that they're thinking of as well too. And like I said, I believe, and I'm not 100% certain. I want to say from Africa. It was either Africa. If somebody speaking on behalf of Africa or India, I believe that. I mean, they would talk about astronomical numbers. I know we're talking about $20 trillion, and when you think about 40 some odd million people, okay, now factor in when you're talking about continents and subcontinents, how much they're talking about. You get, Africa sitting up here. I think Africa's talking about something like damn near $100 trillion, and I think India ain't far away either. So
yeah, but look, we also trying to get what, $1 trillion some here for our claims, and of course these folks over here are going to try to fight tooth and nail to make sure that we don't get reparations over here, even though they have given some kind of reparation to other groups. See, that's why we have to keep fighting over here, because every group that's been in here in this nation has gotten something out of the deal. See, we got these Jews, of course, getting money from here, which I don't quite understand why they getting money from this nation, because I figured that should be only Germany paying for that claim. So I'm not understanding why America is paying out money. But then we have the Japanese gotten some money out of this. I'm assuming maybe even other Asian groups have gotten something out of it outside of the Japanese. Then who else? Of course, these immigrants. Look at this right now. The immigrants, how they have gotten money just coming in recently in the past 4 years. Look at the money that's going to them. That's reparations money. That's reparations money that they're getting that should be coming to the group that is a non-immigrant group, which I keep telling y'all, that's who we are. We are the non-immigrant group. So the money that the immigrant groups are getting is the money that we should be getting. See? So they are getting reparations money. See, you see what I'm talking about? So every group is getting something out of this nation except the group that should be getting the money. And I'm going to land it right there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing, but I just threw those numbers out. That the numbers that Africa saying that they owe, the numbers that we're owed, the numbers that India's owed, the numbers that you got Poland talking about what Germany did to them. You got this group talking about what that group did to them, and this and that or whatever. Like when you start factoring in these numbers, you can kind of see why these Western nations are really, really nervous when people start talking about they started talking about reparations, and they want to sit up here and say, you know what, well, everybody was done wrong in the world and this and that. They're saying that because they like, hey, we can't afford to pay this up. We ain't trying to pay this up. You got even, I think Ethiopia is trying to go ahead and get back some of their actual treasure and some of the artifacts, and you had other nations and stuff like that as well too. Like for Africa, something simple like that, they need to go ahead and get back some of their colonial and dynastic artifacts back from some of these people as well too. So that to them that would be a huge stepping stone. But will they get it back? I don't know. They may get a few pebbles here and there, but will they actually get anything of real substance back in terms of their own artifacts taken from them? That would be that would be worth hearing as well too. So we got Viral D up here, and we got Detroit. One of you guys want to raise your hand, we will go ahead and get to you. Somebody, which one of you guys want to speak? Let me know. Okay, that was Viral. I don't know, Detroit, Viral. Who?
T was in here before me, but he's not ready. I'll go ahead and speak real quick.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. All right. Yeah. They give reparations out to everybody. You got these Jewish Holocaust survivors still getting reparations, and that was some white-on-white crime over in Europe. Didn't have nothing to do with us. Obama gave reparations to Guam when he was in office, but some I think that was involved in World War II when we've been at South Pacific. Native Americans still getting reparations. I think we're gonna get it. It's just a matter of time and a matter of when we have, enough people echoing the same thoughts. And we have these discussions a lot about what should reparations be. I think it should be a number of things. You give us some of the same things you gave Native Americans. Make you tax exempt. Land is money first of all. Maybe free education. They owe us everything because our contributions to this country. Without our contributions, there wouldn't be no United States. Just flat out. I just hope I hang along, see it, but I do believe we're going to eventually get it. We just got to keep informing more and more people.
We hear a bunch of static there. You there, Byron?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we heard a bunch of static. You straight?
Yeah,
Yeah, we may have to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to mute your mic because it's a bunch of static coming in there. But appreciate it, Byron.
He made a very good point about the fact that all these different groups like the Indians, Native Americans, whatever you want to call them, gotten reparations, but not necessarily just payments of some kind, but maybe they gotten like tax exempt, for their taxes, or they're getting something for free education, or they're getting maybe free housing. So it's different ways to break down this whole reparation thing. And to me, we should get a little bit of all of that. When we're talking about the Black American non-immigrant group, we should get all of that and some, of course. The direct payments, free education, free housing, you just name it. It's a lot of that can be repaired for our people because a lot of that stuff was taken, and we have not had access to get a lot of that is due to our people. Even with the healthcare system, because we know there's been medical apartheid that has been committed here in this nation against our people. Another way of trying to kill our people, So there's just so many different ways to repair the damage and the harm that has been done to our people in this nation. So this is something Black Americans we need to be thinking about, not just cash payments, right? We all want the money, but we want the other stuff too that go along with all of that. The land, access to great health care, the access to great education, access to great housing. We want all of that. I'm gonna land right there.
All right, appreciate that, Professor. And like I said, anybody that wants to speak, feel free to come on up here. You guys see the topic. We're talking about the African Union making demands about reparation for slavery and colonialism. Feel free to come on up here, guys. I want to hear what you guys got to say. Do you support it? Are you against it? Do you want you part of it if they do get it or whatever? So come on up here. Feel free. Detroit, go ahead and unmute your mic. I see you up here.
Yeah, give me a second, man. Give me a second. I got to fix the mobile.
Okay, when you come back, Detroit, make sure you got your headset out. You got your earbuds out too, so we can hear you loud and clear. Real quick, let me go to YouTube and read a couple comments. I see DL is the one who's leaving the comments over there tonight, so I'm going to read a couple of his comments. It says, Africans in America talk down on us getting reparations because they aren't eligible, but I don't see one FBA talk down on them trying over there. He also said, DL also says, so since we didn't fall for allowing everyone in our reparations claim, the tactic has shifted to Africans calling for reparations for all Black people. Nah, nice try, though. That's a UBI. Africans, he says, DL says, Africans are active participants in the slave trade of Africans. DL also says, no one can compare to our reparations claim in America. We were tortured, worked to death, and bred for generations. Also says, I don't see what this has to do with FBA reparations claim. DL says, when we defeat Elon's Nazi army, we will get reparations, and that will be soon if America don't turn on him first. So DL's over there, dropping a little something, something. So shout out to you, DL. I see you leaving many comments over there as well, too. So hopefully some of our people will chime in as well, too. Get some of our people over here to chime in as well, too. Detroit, are you there? Are you still waiting? Detroit might still be doing his thing, so we will come back to you, Detroit, as well too. Professor, shout out to you, DL. What was I gonna say, Professor? Damn, I lost my train of thought.
I'm here, bro. I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How you doing tonight?
I'm chilling, bro. How y'all doing, man? How you doing, bro?
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on there, Detroit?
What's going on, bro? Hey, man, I just was in this room earlier today, right? You had the folks paying the African and all that stuff going on, chopping it up. You had the Native Americans going on about, chopping it up. But the moral of the story is reparations, bro. And they wouldn't be having all these damn hearings if it wasn't valid. You know what I'm saying? A lot of folks gonna have to we gonna have to buckle down on this one, dog, because like y'all said, they're giving money away from all these other races. You know what I'm saying? But we don't have no offense for that. We need to develop an offense for what they doing, bro. We all on defense, but I hear no offensive talk. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody talking about nationwide boycott. Ain't nobody talking about what y'all city, how much the houses are. Ain't nobody trying to start no investment firm where we can buy these little vacant ran down houses. There's all types of stuff going on where ain't nobody getting on the offense. You know what I'm saying? That's bringing confusion to everything. And that's how folks end up arguing. Because ain't nobody on no off. We all defense. We all get looks like we all backs against the walls against these people, but it's not. We already won the fucking course because
Hey, watch your language. But go ahead.
I know. You see, I call myself, baby. But we already won because it's out there now. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't out there like it was 10 years ago, let alone 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So we won that part of the thing. Everybody talk the OMB thing. Everybody saying we free. Everybody saying we FBA. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what the name is. The money has to be allocated to us. 90% of us can we can go back to what our grandparents were kids. Our great grandparents were kids. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have to do all that. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to, we don't have to argue about if we freedmen and Native American and all that. We don't have to do that. There's a lot of children on this app. There's a lot of folks who don't own nothing in this app. A lot of folks who do own something, but the end result is can't nobody on this app give me a job paying me $100,000 million. That's the problem. That is the ultimate problem. Can't nobody on this app. I can't give y'all a job. You can't give me a job. And that's where the problem lies in. Because we all got to go work for these other people. And these other races that's been coming here, of course the white man is going to give other races. They've been doing it, other races money. They've been doing it since the 1800s, since the 1865, the 1865 Act, the Homestead Act, when all the immigrants came over and started taking land from black folks. Then you got the attacks that we went through, that we survived through from 1865 all the way to 1930. Those were attacks by immigrants. Then the 1950 Highway Act, when those same immigrants came over here, they got into Congress. So they passed the law saying, "Hey man, we don't want to run highways to our community. Let's run highways to the Negroes' community." Then, you know what I'm saying, we got timelines of immigrants that are in our government. They're always going to vote against us, man, because we're the only people who have nowhere to go because we are from here. So we need to develop an offense, man, a large scale offense. And that's all. That's about it. We just need to come up with an offense, bro. They ain't this defensive stuff, man. Defense is gonna bring too much negativity and too much bull to the conversation of what we need to do.
Detroit, let me ask you real quick. What's your feelings about the actual the actual Africans trying to get reparations for slavery and colonialism?
I think we all need to gang up on them and shut them down like we shut Mama down. We need to vocal our disdain for that. Like, you people aren't out with us. You people didn't help us. We can't come to y'all. 45 million black folks can't pack up and go to y'all. Not their country in Africa right now. So what are y'all talking about? Whatever y'all doing ain't got nothing to do with us, and what we're doing have nothing to do with y'all. That's what we need. We need to shut all that down the best way we can. So somebody needs to get in touch with somebody. So how can we talk to these people firsthand and tell them keep our names out your mouth, because we're not going to stop this beef. We've been beefing with these white folks for 600 years, and it ain't going to stop until we don't have to see them no more. So I think we need to just all band up. We got to attack. We got an enemy now. We need to shut them down. You know what I'm saying? So
you're saying shut the white folks down and shut the Africans down.
Shut them down as far as shut the Africans down as far as like saying they don't want reparations on account of us. You know, and they want America to pay. No. Whatever you in, you know, whatever you in, I don't even know the name of that. Whoever's supposed to pay them, but America doesn't owe y'all anything. America owes us. So that conversation needs to be over here. That's like the Mexicans come here saying, oh yeah, we need, America needs to pay reparations to Mexico. What the heck? That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. You know, so that's my take on it. Now, me personally, I already know it's bull. So they using our fight to get money for their independent country. So that's all they try. They just try to use our blood as a means to say, oh yeah, we need it too. You know, and they put no work in. And then that African country helped any black American throughout our history here. So I think we all need to gang up on them and shut that down. You know, because it's bull. It's malarkey. It makes no sense. It's like bizarre. Some people not with us. None of them.
Now, I will say, Detroit, I'm not sure. Now, I'm thinking when they talking about reparations, I'm thinking that they not talking about America. I'm thinking they talking about, you know, the Western European nations and stuff. To my understanding.
Okay. Well, that's their fight. That's their fight. They got nothing to do with us. They don't even associate with us. You know what I'm saying? On the small level of them coming here, like the foreigners that come here, they don't even associate with us. We're not even African. 45 million black folks cannot pack up to go to Africa. That makes no sense. If we do that, we have to come with soldiers and everything on thing up before we focus on China. So that has nothing to do with us. So that's about it, though.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you. I see Professor must be disconnecting, so maybe Professor's having some issues, but I'm sure he'll be back shortly. Twizzer, what's up? I see you up here as well, too, so shout out to Twizzer. What you think about this title tonight?
It's funny. African Union demand reparations for slavery and colonization. Well, they're talking to the wrong people, because last I looked, I think they need to be talking to Amsterdam, the King Leopold. They need to go to Germany. They need to go to Italy. They need to go to Spain. Most of all, Portugal, and they need to go to Great Britain, because the last I looked, they had, what was that, Berlin summit they had where they all was going to carve up Africa. So I think they need to go over there and holler at them about their reparations. You know what I'm saying? But I was going through the car wash and I was listening to the news today. I heard that Donald Trump is suing China for $50 trillion because of the Wuhan lab leak that gave the whole world COVID-19. So he's saying that him and a few other countries are suing China for $50 trillion. And he said when Americans can get reparations from China for what they went through with this COVID thing. So if you lost a family member, or suffered for any tragedy due to COVID, you could be able to sue China for that. He announced this on the news today.
I did not hear that. I didn't know that. I gotta check that out, Twizzer. I didn't know about that, man. People throw that reparation term around so often now, but I know you got who was that over there? I know they talk about Ukraine and the minerals and stuff like that, trying to get $500 billion worth of $500 billion from Ukraine as well too. So there's so many different things going on right now in terms of people, and then they talk about reparations this, reparations that as well too. So I did not know that, Twizzle. I'm gonna have to check that out.
After listening to our fight, everybody in mama want reparations or reform of it right now because they see what Black Americans are capable of and the things that we're doing. And I just want to send a shout out to all the cowards and the scary people saying that we can't get it. I remember they said that we would never be free from slavery. I remember they said that we would never be able to read and write. I remember they said we would never be able to marry and own homes. I remember they said we would never be able to college and all this. Everything they said we would never be able to do, we conquered it. So how we're not going to get reparations when we conquered everything else, man? Come on. I'm tired of the scared people saying what we can't do, and I'm ready to work with the people who have solutions. You know, that's what men do. Men don't cry about problems we solve. That's all I want to say, man.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me go ahead and get to Mr. Arenza Thigpen. But anybody else that wants to speak as well, too, guys, feel free to come on up here. It's not going to be a long space, so come on up here. And I saw a comment that Viral Drip said, and I guess he's saying that Ethiopia also included the USA. So, Viral, when you get a chance, come back up here. I don't know if you said Viral. I see you down there in the listener section. You get a chance, come on up here because you're saying that Ethiopia also included the United States in that. If so, that's wild. Let me go ahead and get to Rizza. Rizza, what's going on with you tonight?
What's going on, Newstoter? What's going on, everybody? Twizzle, what's up, man? Nicely said, bro. Nicely said.
What's happening? Thank you.
What's happening? You bet. What's up, Great King Black State? I see you down there. Big shouts out to you, too. Newstoter, I'm going to tell you this one, man. It's a distraction, but it's one of them fights that we're not involved in, and we're going to keep moving. Let me explain why. That virus in Wuhan that they claim was made in China, they didn't do it by themselves. If something that big, that comprehensive took place, it was a multilateral effort. It wasn't something that, say, was made in China like your clothes. It wasn't like that. It couldn't have been like that. And I noticed that right around the same time that COVID thing happened, the birth of 5G happened. So I'm looking into whether or not those two are connected, but that's like a long-term research project of mine. But the gist of what I'm saying is that for blaming China on that is absolutely ludicrous. It's a distraction to find a way to take money from the Chinese, and it could have a reverse effect on these politicians. So they need to be very careful about saying something outlandish as that, because there is no way, and there is enough research out there now. And I posted stuff about 6 or 7 months ago, and I have to look for it, that talked about how this COVID-19 operation wasn't just in the United States, that this was something that was done in unison with other places, including China. So, yeah, I wouldn't look at that. About the African Union or anybody outside of the United States trying to ride the coattails of reparations, they looking to get slapped. So you see, foundational Black Americans have a legitimate claim. They don't. And for them to have the audacity to ride our political narrative for their own gain is absolutely ludicrous. And I know the United States government or its politicians thereof are not going to try to give them anything and skip over us. The days of skipping over Black Americans is over. I ride with you, Twizzle. I hear what you're saying, bro. I'm right there with you. To everybody in the room, I land here. FBA, 10 toes down.
I want to ask you one quick question, Ariza, before you leave. And I know you said that they don't have, basically they don't have a leg to stand on for reparations. But what do you feel? And I know we're talking probably more so the transatlantic slave trade, but what about colonialism? Do you think that they can actually, they have a reparation claim against the Western nations of Europe?
Yes, they do. Historical fact. The Nigerians actually had something similar to the Great Wall of China. They had this huge infrastructure, and the British people broke it. The Nigerians didn't even know that they had such a comprehensive establishment. You have to find it, probably hashtag Nigeria on my Twitter profile. But back up in there, I have.
Was it Nigeria? Or was it the Kingdom of Ben that had that big Great Wall? Or...
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And so the British destroyed it. So the Nigerians have a reparations claim against Europeans, including Great Britain. but that's their fight. It's not ours. You know, our fight is specifically towards the United States government. So if they want to use our template to go after Europeans, that's fine. But nobody can go after the United States government for reparations but us. We have a legitimate claim. They don't. They're playing copycat. And if they're going to do that copycat routine, they need to do it with the Europeans or some other entity, but not the United States government. I'm sick and tired of our government catering to other people. Black Americans now become first. We are the ride or die ethnogenesis group that they need to put money into, and to give it to somebody else is absolutely asinine.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. And like I was talking when the professor was in here, we were talking about the actual numbers that we're talking about. And I don't know if you guys heard this, but I want to say that you got, like I said, you got India sitting up here talking now about reparations from Great Britain as well too. And I think they was some astronomical number. It was 90 something million or 100 million. It was crazy. But I believe also Africa is saying that, hey, they're owed $100 trillion. I don't know why I said 100 million, $100 trillion by the West for the transatlantic slave trade and colonialism. Do you guys feel like, because I know we're talking about 20 trillion over here, do you feel like that's something that they could potentially get $100 trillion dealing with these Western nations from Europe?
They can get it from Switzerland, but they can't get it from the United States, because you have to look at the entities that were involved prior to or during the birth of the United States. Their claims are strictly European. They can't mess with us. We were the ones who developed the economy of the United States that spread it around this modern day planet. But during that particular time, the transatlantic slave trade was more of the Europeans taking advantage of us. So the lineage that comes from these African continents have a direct claim against Europeans, while our lineage here in the United States has a direct claim to the United States government. If they want to copy our technique to get reparations from our government, that's fine, because we're still leading the way. They're copying us. But for them to specifically ask the United States to pay for a debt that had nothing to do with them, that's not right. And the others, shouts out to you, DJ. My bad. Chong, 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 chong. So I hope you're hearing me up there. Anyway, to get back what I'm saying, I'm not going to give them the opportunity to come after the United States government for money that is not supposed to go to them. But I think that they kind of think the United States in a way is weak, because look how we cater to these other countries, Israel, Ukraine. So they're thinking that maybe they can slide themselves a little cut in there, and we're here to take the axe and cut it off. We cannot let them tether our financial system, basically. Can't let them do it. I'll let them play.
All right. Thank you, Ariza. And I want to say too, I wanted to ask you too, what was your feeling about and Twizzler as well too, what are you guys feeling in terms of let's say that they did get money for the transatlantic slave trade. Now we know it was the people that was actually taken from there that were the real victims. Do you think that if they got X amount of dollars, that should be split with the actual people in the Western Hemisphere, the Americas, North America, South America, the Caribbean, Latin America? Do you think that if they actually did get, let's say they got $5 trillion, let's say they got $2 trillion, do you think that number should be split in half with the people that were who actually had a descendant that was taken in the transatlantic slave trade?
We are the descendants of those people who made the transatlantic slave trade. That's our money. You see what I mean? They can't go around us. The only reason that any African entity in the form of a governmental regime will take money from the United States is because they're lining their pockets. Because the children of we are the children. Well, let me say it a different way. The Black Americans that have African lineage on the transatlantic slave trade, we are entitled to that money. The Canadian blacks that have African lineage as part of that transatlantic slave trade, that's their money. But they cannot ask the United States to be responsible for something like that. The entity is strictly European. Back to you.
All right. Thank you. You go ahead and no taxation. What's going on? I see you up here. I know you got your hand raised, but what's going on tonight?
Harry, how you doing, News? I ain't been up here to talk to y'all in a minute. I've been listening though. Hey DJ and everybody in the room. Hope everybody is well. let me ask y'all this. Cause see, I've been laughing ever since Trump leave office. I hate to say it, everything is funny to me. Can y'all see Trump giving the African Union reparations?
No.
Can y'all see Trump? Can y'all see Trump writing an executive order telling me he's finna give the African Union reparations for slavery and colonization? Baby, you see, they didn't do it on Biden's watch. Only reason they do it is for everything that Lorenzo said. They try to pull a fast one. They really want some money. They should just holler at reparations because they're riding on our wagon like everybody else in the world rides on our Black American FBA Freedmen Negro wagon. That's what they do. And y'all been kicking them off. My guess is I don't think that lady that's the ambassador to the union. I have to check to see if she came through because her stuff got held up. Her boat got held up for some reason. I don't think they have a problem. I think it just got held up. But she'll go up in there. Whoever Trump told to go up in there and tell them Africans, we ain't giving them no money. She'll go on up in there and tell the people that they not gonna be able to get no money. You know, everybody got their hand out. And that's just what it is. And they always do this during a Republican administration. They never do it with the Democrats because they know the Democrats are very self-serving. And so they stopped asking them a long time ago. And I don't know why Africans asking for anything, African Union, African people, African anything, is asking for anything.
No, Tax, you kind of low. Can I get you a little bit louder if possible?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why anything, anybody African, anything or anybody African would be coming to the Trump administration to ask for anything because he ran on being a nationalist. And so it looks very crazy for people in other countries, unions, organizations, whoever they are, to come out there with their hand out and they're not American. Because that goes against everything that he ran on and what people voted on for him to get in office. And he's going to be a nationalist, period. They'll find out, they'll try to hash something out at the United Nations and all that kind of stuff. And we'll hear what that woman said and when she gets in office and all that kind of stuff. And it'll be a done deal. They'll know. Yeah, we know you want some money. Do you have any more resources? See, what is going to say. Do you have any more resources that we don't already have? And if they got some, they'll throw them $50 million, $75 million, $100 million, something like that. They ain't going to give them no Ukrainian money. Watch. But that's only if they have resources. Because the American government doesn't. They don't play about anything over there in Africa because they don't want to be bothered with no Africans, truth to tell. And they don't want to be bothered with us, so you know they don't want to be bothered with no Africans. And they'll throw them a coin. See, that comes from the Obama administration. They didn't beg us until Obama got in office. Now they're coming up here to beg for every nickel and dime thing that they want to have. But, it'll pass. It'll pass. And, just like Arenza said, Trump knows who he owes, and it's not the African Union. And I'm going to leave it there.
All right. Thank you, No Taxation. Let me go ahead and get to Xander. Xander, go ahead and unmute your mic.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing tonight?
All right, and yourself?
Pretty good.
Yeah. African Union demands reparations. The only people that any of these entities need to be paying reparations to is Black Americans. So the African Union, should be their very first step, saying, you know what, we sold off our brothers and sisters, so let us lead by example. Let us pay these Black Americans reparations first. Then they need to go and get a bunch of those white folks up out of their country and start taking back over the diamond mines and stop letting it be controlled by De Beers and Oppenheimers and stuff. So first off, any of these countries involved, because slavery, Black American slavery in America, stimulated not just the economy in America, but all over the world. So every one of them, if they need every one of them should be emptying their damn pockets to pay Black Americans reparations first. I'm mute.
All right, appreciate that, Xander. Let me go ahead and get to what's up, DJ. You ain't spoke none tonight. What's going on, man?
Shout out to the family, Newstoter gang. You already know how we roll. Share the room, my man. It's my bad. I was on time, but I'm late as usual. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, and how you doing, big sister taxation? Been a minute, you know what I mean? I've been texting you too, so I'm not sure if you've been receiving. But with that being said, heard everybody talking. I was actually in the supermarket having the exact same conversation with my man B. Would just say that, you know what I'm saying? The homie B, you know what I mean? And he was saying that we should all go back to Africa with the group. I was telling him about reparations. He was saying he don't want it. I said, hey, bro, you can sign your check over to me. I'd gladly accept it, you know what I mean? But you should, regardless if you want it or not, still advocate for us to obtain reparations, because it's by definition, and this is the main thing we always got to understand, let me put my mic up, it's a debt that's owed. So you owe us slavery, Jim Crow, black codes, segregation, civil rights, add it up, drug era, crack era, you know, we could go on and on why the United States government owes Negro Black Americans. And that right there is the real narrative. You got to separate this stuff. This is what we're delineating. So that was some of the conversations I was spitting back and forth to the homie B. And we was going back and forth for a good hour inside the grocery store. Real talk. We in people way trying to get stuff off the shelf. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? So the fact of the matter is, here's the narrative. You have to go do your genealogy. Not no 23andMe, you know, no what was the ancestry and all this other stuff. That's not your genealogy. Your genealogy is going to go ask the eldest person in your family where we come from and what was going on in your day when you were my age. See that? So with that being said, a person that is from Benin, Nigeria, Tanzania, they can't come over here and ask for no reparations from the United States government under our moniker, you know what I mean? Because you're not a Negro in that sense, you know what I'm saying? So the other thing is, the African Union demands reparations for slavery and colonization. You sold off Negroes, Africa. Y'all shouldn't get a dime, B. And definitely not get a brown Abraham penny before we get it. Because we are the ones saying we are old, the man been suffering, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. Y'all the mass general population on a continent. And here's what the Africans always get confused. They own self. Africa is not a country, B. It's not a country. So why y'all keep saying, oh, we from the country of Africa? That's what the Tethenax was saying. You feel me? You are from the continent of Africa, and whatever country you may be from, Nigeria, which is fairly new in the last couple of years, you know what I'm saying? That's where your butt is from. Now, I'm not sure what city or state, what city or town you might be from within Nigeria. That's whatever. And on top of that, y'all practice tribalism. You got Boko Haram running around there kidnapping little girls, all wording them and unaliving people. So how y'all asking for reparations? And then the other narrative is you still got African countries, right? West Coast, East Coast, I don't think it really matters at this point, that are still selling Africans in 2025. You could go look this up on something as simple as YouTube. They are still selling human beings. So who are these people at the African Union? I think they need y'all Africans better lineage check them. You know what I'm saying? And make sure they ain't some weird UK knacker that got some privilege or something and coming back saying whoopty whoopty whoop. Because we ain't gonna let y'all say that over here. You already know what time it is. We delineate. You know what I'm saying? So the other narrative is I would like to always say my bad and an apology to our sister Viola Davis that played and starred in the movie The Woman King. A lot of us didn't see that because we actually boycotted it. You see what I'm saying? But when it came out on Netflix, I said, man, all right, it's on Netflix. I pay for this stuff anyway. Let me go and watch this. Oh, my God. Viola, you did your thing in that movie, sister. You did your 1, 2 day. You deserve all the Grammys, all the awards, whatever. You know what I'm saying? All the awards. Mm-hmm. And let's not forget, Lupita Nyong'o was an African, was originally supposed to star in a movie. But once she did, read the script and started doing it, because it's a true story, give or take, you know what I'm saying? Started reading the script and started learning the history, and she going to these places in Africa where this stuff actually happened at and took place, the Kingdom of Benin. She broke down in tears and said, I can't do this. This is too much. You know what I'm saying? So our sister Viola took the role over. And let me tell you, that's one of the hardest black movies in existence, yo. Go watch The Woman King when we end this live, people. And we got to have a space on that afterwards, because this obviously going to need a part 2. So y'all sold off y'all best and brightest for trinkets or resources, minerals, whatever, that was elements that was already in the ground, always already in the sky, already on the tree. See that? So when they say they demanding reparations for slavery, well, the only country that we really know of that could really lay that type of claim is the Congolese, for what King Leopold and the Belgians did to them. They even displayed that stuff over in Belgium with the chocolate, Belgian chocolate. They got feet and hands made out of chocolate. But what does that represent? The feet and the hands they cut off of the slave people. You feel what I'm saying? And then this is not to say or neglect or negate that other European countries wasn't doing things to other countries in Africa or other parts of Africa. We could say this. So before these African Union people ask for anything, you need to pay us, B. You know what I'm saying? First, before y'all get a dime from any of these cracker-knacker European nations, westernized nations or whatever, they owe us first. We are the ones that's putting in the work. Like Areza said, yeah, you can piggyback off the paperwork. We don't care. We actually want you to have it. So that way you can go do what you got to do and stop begging the white Jesus over there to be your savior. See that? These folks, when all the spaces and times we done did, or stories and news articles we did, Ghana and all these other places, hey, black Americans, come back over here. You're well welcome now. Well, where was that at 20 years, 50 years, 100 years ago? We still waiting on a slave rescue ship to this day. So, yeah, there you go. Just big it up, you know what I'm saying? So, in context to the conversation I had with the homie B, we shouldn't go anywhere and go live or give up our citizenship anywhere. And I ain't even worried about having dual citizenship in Africa, because you could just go over there with a passport and be free. See that? So what does citizenship even mean over there? When the citizens of the entire continent of Africa can't even go to each other's state and city. You could leave from Texas and go to Boston, no problem. You could go from Virginia and shoot all the way over to Washington State. Ain't nobody gonna ask you nothing, B. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you might get pulled over or hey, let me see your ID real quick. But you an American now. So it's like, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But over there, they own peoples. The peoples that's supposed to be guarding the border, they be storing their own people to allow them to cross between sections of the borders of the states and the countries. Why would we even want to go over there when there's nothing but pure tribalism? And I'm going to just land on here because I don't want to be knackababbling too long. They don't like us. I'm sorry, The vast majority of Africans do not like knackers in America, We see it online. We deal with them in the streets. We deal with them in the school system, the workplace. They don't like us because they are not like us. We are the ones, our ancestors and elders, rather, and we're just continuing to fight. We are the ones that have fought the white people straight up, tooth and nail, and still fighting these people tooth and nail. Sometimes I think that's why Maya Angelou said we are more alike than we are unalike, because we ain't like them Africans. You know what I'm saying? Hey, South Africa, once y'all beat them boys down and take y'all land back. Because they lying over here to the Western media saying y'all killing them and all this other stuff. We know that's not true. Because y'all ain't busting the grape in the fruit fight yet. You know what I mean? Keep it real. Your elder ancestor, what's old boy name? Nelson Mandela, he might have been putting in some work back then with some freedom fighters. You know what I'm saying? But y'all new knackers, you know what I'm saying? The new descendants of the day, man, y'all be wanting to be in the court with white supremacy. And if that's not true, then why? And then look, this no matter where you from in Africa, y'all Africans know y'all be online calling us farm equipment. That's right. You are saying that our soul food is slave food. Oh yeah. You don't think we not looking at that? So y'all shouldn't get it done. Slavery and colonization. Nobody cared that you was colonized either. Because I'm gonna tell you why. You forced us to come over here for those that do or were a part of the transatlantic slave trade. So the main conversation with the homie B, do your genealogy, yo. Because how do you know your family came off a slave ship or not? Now, if you don't find anything or any reference of your family coming off a slave ship and all this other stuff, guess what? You ain't African. And that's really the argument of what's going on now with us delineating because we're doing the research. And I'll really land here, and I'm going to say this last thing. Indian means Negro. There you go. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm gonna say this part here. I do think that they deserve reparations for colonialism. I do think they do. They deserve it for that. Now, in terms of just the transatlantic slave trade, I think that I don't think that they should actually get that because the actual victims of the transatlantic slave trade were the ones who were captured and sent across the ocean. But I do think, for just in terms of colonialism, I think they do deserve something for that. I think they do have an actual argument and a case for colonialism. Now, they can't put America in it because America wasn't one of the ones that sliced up the actual continent like the European power. So, America, for all that America does now, that's not to say we know America does all kind of crooked stuff behind the scenes and stuff like that. But in terms of just apartheid and colonialism, that you'd have to take that up with the Europeans. You'd have to take that up with Great Britain and France and them and all the rest of them as well too. So that's something. And if you do get, and I said this before, me and Professor was talking about this earlier in the space. If you do get anything for reparations, then that should be split in half with the actual the actual descendants of the people over in the Western Hemisphere in the Americas that were actually that their ancestor was actually a victim of the actual slave trade. So that's how I actually see it. So we got a viral back up here. Let me go ahead and get the viral. And I got Black Idaho. I got Twizzle up here as well too. Viral, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Yeah. You were asking, was the United States included in that claim? Yes, it is. I read the article real quick, and it says colonial powers. It's got the United States, Britain, and pretty much all the colonial powers. I do believe the United States had a hand, and they wasn't. They were involved in ripping off Africa. Do they have a claim? No comment, because this. Shout out to Flex for bringing this up the other day. He this speaker of the African Union. He, I believe, was it or is the Ethiopian Prime Minister. And a few years back, he stated how Black Americans need to get over slavery and that we should let the past be the past. And then he turned around and circled. Then he turned around and circled the block.
I remember that.
Yeah, he turned around and circled the block, and now they ask for reparations. So I ain't gonna speak whether he got a claim or not. I'm gonna keep it
same time. That was around the same time that Jewish Prime Minister lady came up and said the biggest problem to Jerusalem is Black Americans. That was around the young Black Americans. That was around that time. Go ahead, brother. I didn't mean to kill your spill.
You good, Twizzle. So, I ain't gonna be dirty like you and say that they don't. I'm gonna just say no comment on that.
All right. Thank you, Viral. Let me go ahead. Twizzle, go ahead and unmute your mic. Black Idaho, I got you next.
It was something that I said that kind of like made me think about something a little bit. And it was something that you said that you feel like they do deserve it. I kind of feel like they don't deserve it. And I say they don't deserve it for the simple fact, one,
No, I just say for colonialism, they deserve it. For colonialism and apartheid.
Colonialism, but you know one thing though, they haven't fought colonialism. They accepted and folded to colonialism. One thing us Black Americans, we've been fighting ever since the 1500s in the land. That's what makes us so unique, and that's what makes us so bitter. I mean, that's why that's why everybody's so jealous of us, because we are the only ones who fought the white man and stood up against them and took on the biggest atrocity in human history. We stood up and we took that and we took the brunt of that, and we still here. You know what I'm saying? So we have a right to what we stand for. We have a right to our claim, and we have a right because we know our history and our past. Like someone was saying earlier with the Caribbeans, how they feel like they have a right. Well, I would love to see them do their lineage, to see when they trace back their families, when their families came on those ships that came over here. You know what I'm saying? It ain't too many blacks, it ain't too many melanated people outside of them trace their lineage like us, because we are a unique people. Like me, I trace my lineage to 1851 to the Seminole Creek people of South Florida. You know what I'm saying? So that makes me unique to this land. My family didn't come on no slave ship. And there's a lot of other Black Americans here that's like that. That's what makes us so weak. And we all know 3% of the slaves that was taken out of Africa, only 3% of them made it to the United States, because the Caribbean was quarantined. All the ones that came on the ship, they had to stop in the Caribbean, because only the ones that was healthy, only ones that was physically fit and had all their teeth, those were the prime stock that came to the Americans. You know what I'm saying? So it's a major, they have a major problem with them trying to claim reparations, for the simple fact some of them still don't have an identity. Some of them still don't know who they are. They don't know who they are till they come over here and learn with us. Like you just said, the lady who was about to start Woman King, she didn't know nothing about Africa till she went over there and learned it. Once she learned it, it messed her up so bad to where she couldn't handle it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like they got a bigger fight. I think they need to learn who they are and fight for themselves before they can even get a penny, because how they gonna ask for money if they don't even know what they're asking for money for? Newstoter, you may say colonization, but okay, what else? You know what I'm saying? That's what I was saying, and I land my plane there.
All right, appreciate that. I personally say colonization. They were under colonial rule. They did have wars over there. They did fight. Unfortunately for them, too many of their countrymen and rival gangs and stuff, tribes, I should say. I'm sorry. Went and sided with Europeans and stuff like that, and they were already, outgunned by them. So it didn't help that the actual people went ahead and sided with the Europeans. So I would say, we know reparations is about, repair. So I would say that they are owed that, just from the actual being forced, off their lands and everything else and stuff like that through colonialism. I personally believe that they are entitled to it. Just for if you're gonna have all these other nations, if you're gonna have India and all these other nations around the world and stuff say, hey, we were colonized and we're owed reparations and this and that or whatever, then I think they have a legitimate claim to it. Because the entire continent, with the exception of a country here, there, and I know Ethiopia, with the exception of them, everybody else fell in colonial rule. So I would say that they should, to me personally, and I know people in here may disagree, to me personally, I think they should get that. Now for the transatlantic slave trade, I can't really go along with that. I can't really, just based off how everything went down with that, I can't really go along with that. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt for colonialism and apartheid. I'll give them that, but I can't give it for the transatlantic slave trade. Let me go ahead and get to Black Idaho. Black Idaho, you got it.
Toner.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention, no taxation. You already know what Trump was gonna say. They asked him already, and his response was I don't see it.
Okay.
He asked him already. He said, what now? Send me a link. I
posted it in the purple pill. He said, I don't see it.
All right.
We didn't see it either, President Trump. We didn't see it either. Okay? That's what we all in agreement.
Let me go ahead and get to Black Idaho real quick, and then I'm gonna come back to no taxation. You still up here? Okay, I see no taxation. No, I'm gonna go to Black Idaho. No taxation. Go ahead, Black Idaho. What's
Newstoter, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, peace and blessing. Thank you for having this space, Newstoter. DJ, what's the good word?
Hey, what's up now?
Hey, peace and blessings and much love and big reparations check to all the Americans in the space tonight who are American by birth, right, blood, right. This is a great topic. The African Union demands reparations. First off, I think that the situation is really complicated. I think this is why we got to really do our research, really do our I guess it's complicated. I mean, I don't want to be associated with cowards, man. I think the whole continent is a coward situation. When you do your math, the numbers don't add up. 400,000 Africans who came over to the North American shores did not make 60 million Black Americans today. Okay? It doesn't make sense, okay? It just doesn't. And I get it. A lot of us are afraid of power. We're afraid of power. We're afraid of money. So we kind of think that this whole Africanness is giving us exotic characteristics that we want. No, fuck, I don't want nothing to do with these motherfuckers, man.
Oh, language.
My bad. You're recording this. I forgot. So I'm going to say this. Reparations to Black Americans will be the best investments that America could ever make. You know why? Because Black Americans only spend their money in America. So once we get our reparations, we're going after Spain, we're going after France, we're going after Portugal, we're going after Dutch, we're going after France, we're going after Africa. And guess what? We're going to spend our money, Newstoter and DJ. We're going to spend all that money in America. So
They
I don't know.
Black people. Black people. They know this too.
Yeah, so I want to say that too. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I'm glad you're recording this. Whoever needs to hear this, y'all need to get it to Big Trump. Hey, this is the best investment ever because our money is going to be spent in this nation, gang. Do y'all research. I'm Black by way of being indigenous. Look, I trace my roots. I know my roots in America. My grandmother did not lie to me. The numbers don't matter. So the sheer fact that we always have to coddle Africa is so weak, man. It's so weak that we still depend on a continent because they did nothing for us, and it's been 500 motherfucking years. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Be careful. Sorry. Go ahead. But yeah, watch the language.
Sorry. They haven't sent the boat. They haven't sent the plane. They don't do nothing. But guess who's inventing everything? Black Americans. We invented the plane. We invented the plane. We invented the car. We invented the cell phone that we're listening to right now. The reason why we can touch screen right now is because of goddamn Black American. The reason why we have GPS is because of Black American. The sheer fact that we always have to coddle Africa is so weak. And the sheer fact that they want our money shows that Black Americans aren't standing on business. Do your fucking lending. If you need a couple of dollars on
you're killing me with them F-bombs, Black Idaho. You're killing me.
My bad. God damn, you want to be monetized so bad. My bad. If you need a couple dollars,
hey. Okay, let's not be condescending here either, bro. let's not be condescending about a couple dollars and stuff like that too. Now let's kind of be respectful and whatnot. That's the rule of the actual space, and let's not insult me. But go ahead.
You're right. What wasn't assault? I'm just living my best life out here in Idaho. I'm the bravest man in Idaho right now. I'm the bravest Black American in Idaho right now. I'm not trying to offend you, but I want us to know that we get so excited to go to places like Africa, not realizing that I'm sorry, I got this little beautiful Black indigenous baby in my arms right now. We get so excited to go places like Africa and everywhere else, not realizing that Black. Thank you, bro. Look, Black folks, we melanated people exist all over the continent, but we are the only Black people. So I'm gonna land right here, man. The best investment that we can ever do as Black Americans is to trace our roots in this land and stop being afraid and stand on business. Stand on our bloodline business. Donald Trump is throwing us an alley-oop by taking the birthright citizenship to the Supreme Court. That's an alley-oop. And I think a lot of us need to sit back and let that do what it do. Let deportation do. Mass deportation now, mass deportation forever. Thank you, Newstoter. I'm going to chill right there. Appreciate you.
All right. Let me go ahead and get to Mikhail. I see you've been up here. I know you over there in Africa too. You've been having some connection issues. Do you want to go ahead and speak real quick?
Yes, brother. We can give it a shot. How are you, brother Newstoter?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing over there in Africa, man?
What up, dog? Excellent. Yes. Living the dream on, and brother DJ, wait one long time. See, we have our brother Twistle, Lorenzo, Live State, Sister Kim,
Brother Meat Cow. What's that here doing?
Just keeping that jab in their face as usual.
Right on, brother.
So, sticking to the topic, African Union demands reparations for slavery and colonization.
And you're the perfect person to ask that question too.
Excuse me. I'm just sort of waking up. Look, Africa needs to stop looking for love in all the wrong places. That's a mistake they've been making for several thousand years, or let's say at least 2,000 years. Number two, if it wasn't for Africa and decisions, bad decisions they made, excuse me, there would have been no slavery, no colonization. They put themselves in a situation that the world currently is in. Three, the best form of colonization is when you don't know you're colonized. I mean, they're driving American, European, even Chinese cars. Right? They're using these Western curriculums. They don't create their own business plans or business models, nor do they, excuse me, do their own research, development, and innovation. They rely on others, you see. So they're basking in the glow of colonization. In fact, they're playing, they better stop listening to the Chinese. Let's just start there. They need to find their original black minds that we have now, because they don't have it. And Trump, Elon, Peter Thiel, Mark Adelson, these are technocrats, cold technocrats. And this is an AI-generated form of governance that the world hasn't seen before. This is Silicon Valley. And what's going to happen to them, Trump or Elon and company, they're going to look at the remittances that's being sent back to Africa. And they're going to calculate or make calculations and decide that it's time to cut it off. And if I was Trump, I would organize a committee of foundationals to vote on whether or not Africa should receive reparations and decide that Africa owes foundationals in the form of precious metals and target the mines that are owned by the Chinese and use that as justifications for taking those minerals and then pipelining those resources back into historically black neighborhoods or freedmen bureaus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they're playing themselves. It's not logical. And I'll land with this. The European Union pays members of the African Union's salary. You understand? So they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're not strategic. I'll end with that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mikhail. And you said something there when he was saying something about Trump actually getting the minds of actually Black Americans or something. If he did that, man, that would be a chess move to say the least, right there. That would change a lot of things. That would bring in a lot of international hate as well, too. Could you imagine if? That's one thing about this country. They're not going to do you no favors either. But, if they say, you know what, you guys are old reparations, since they always say, well, go get the reparations from Africa. They sold you. If he was to go ahead and get control of those mines and the wealth actually went to Black Americans over here, man, everybody be having a ball and not crying about that. Eesh.
Yeah, but did you also hear what he said, though? That's brilliant. To turn the United States government into like some type of financial law enforcement agents to say, hey, give us the money for the Black Americans. If I heard that right, turn them into financial police officers. I'll land my plane there. I just happened to hear that in his strategy. That's beautiful.
Oh yeah. That's something. Let me go ahead and get to I'm not sure, was it no?
You know what, Total, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to say maybe they do need to get some reparations on that so they can buy soap and deodorant. Man, I tell you.
All right. All right. Let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and get it to I think no taxation, and then Xander was next, I believe. Go ahead, no taxation.
No, I just want to piggyback on what Twister said, because he said something that Big Gregory has always said, which is we the only people that go up against this white supremacist war machine. They conquer other countries, but they haven't conquered us. How about that? And Dick Gregory stood on that. So thanks, Twizzler, for reminding us. I'm going to leave it there.
Yes, ma'am. Let me go ahead and get to Xander. Xander, go ahead and unmute your mic.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Africa had its chance to basically grow a backbone back when Robert Mugabe was having that forced buyback from a bunch of those white settlers. Now, you had like 10% of the people owning 90% of the land, and you had 90% of these black folks trying to share pretty much 10%. He should have went in there and just took the land, but he tried to be capitulating and actually had them to try to sell, force them to sell some of this land. He only got half of it. They depicted him as a tyrant. See, Africa, as far as like trying to talk to somebody like the United States, trying to negotiate, they don't have the testicles to do that. See, the problem with them is they make up that continent and getting pimp slapped all over the place by little white men, white females, Asians. And so what Africa's, and when I see them trying to talk about reparations, to me, that's them trying to sabotage what they see Black Americans got going. See, right now we got the most powerful movement going on the planet. When we're basically saying we want to be our own category, and nobody else has the legitimacy, the ability to stake a claim. See, we can actually go to Africa and say, hold up a second, like I said before, you guys sold us. And then when it comes to everybody else on the planet, they all benefited from the persecution of Black Americans. So when it comes to Black Americans, I see this like this African Union I'm asking them, if you guys want to try to pull some weight, the first thing you have to do is get your military or Mugabe. Tell them white folks, look, since we ain't got the guts to take back the diamond mine you done stole, but I'll tell you this, we're going to take half of it. So you have to have something to make, like when we come to the table, we're not just coming, if we did it like a lot of just like with a Sambo mentality, marching and having a hunger strike, they're just going to say, good, I want to see you niggas starve to death. Or trying to sit in at a counter where they spitting on you and you want them to cook your food. That's kind of that Africa has. See, Black Americans, when we sit out of these elections and we don't break up a fight between Lucifer and Satan, that does nothing but empower us. So Africa really don't got the backbone or the guts to even try to tell America nothing. What I want to see them do is start right there where you guys got 90% of the population and start guarding a bunch of these white folks up off your resources and start taking control of your economy. And I'll tell you what, we might be broke as far as money, but we'll certainly put aside some of these resources specifically for you. And what we'll do is we can set up a trust fund through a third country, anything. But as it is right now, I want to see Africa or the African Union start circling their own wagons and taking back some of their resources that's rightfully theirs from white supremacists and all these other people they're calling colonial.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you. Did somebody else have a hand up too?
Yeah, that's me. But I see Black State up here if you want to speak. What's up, Black Majority? And Xander, I was just going to say something you said I was about to say too. It'll come back to me. But go ahead, Toby.
Oh, shout out. I see my girl Tata down there. I see my girl Val down there. I see Fresh down there. I see Kim down there, Nita down there. So shout out to you ladies. Shout out to you. Let me go ahead and get to Black Majority State. We ain't gonna keep it going too much longer, y'all. Black, go ahead, you got it.
Okay, thanks for allowing me to speak. Shout out to Newstoter, DJ, Professor. I came up because of what Mikhail said. What's up? And shout out to Mikhail, and what he said, because it's interesting what he said, and it kind of fits into the idea that, whether Trump does that or not, I mean, it would be phenomenal. I don't know if that's in his character, but it would be an amazing thing. But the reality is this, with Black Majority State Authority, we could do that not just in Africa, we could do it in parts of Asia, we could do it in South America, we could do it anywhere and everywhere that the U.S. military still has dominion, because that map is getting smaller, unfortunately. But anywhere that the United States of America can go, we could go, and we could set up these arrangements and these agreements, and it would be a natural fit to do it in Africa because of this genetic, connection that we have with the continent. But we could do it in Arabic lands. I think there's no limit to what we can do. And so I just appreciate him for kind of addressing that in a way that was very out of the box, very way of differently of thinking of things. Again, I don't know if Trump has the will to do that in a way that would benefit us. I could certainly see him doing that to benefit the reset, which is for white masculine authority, white male supremacy. But I say that we could also be at the table if we had the power and authority, and it wouldn't take us long. Delaware had 2 special elections. Both of those people, these were state seats, state house seats. They both won with less than 2,500 votes. There are opportunities in this country where we can get the power very quickly through 2 or 3 election cycles. And things like what Mikhail mentioned, we could be at the driver's seat of those initiatives. And that way we don't have to wait and see what whoever's sitting in the White House is going to do. We could be writing policy. We could be having those negotiations. We could be on those flights, and we could be making that happen. So shout out to Mikhail. Peace.
All right. Yeah. Mikhail came up with something when he said that. I mean, that did, I've never really thought about it the way he said it before, but that did kind of catch my interest as well too. Like I say, you do it, but you'll have all kind of people hating on it as well too. But that is something that really, really, when he said that, it kind of sparked my interest somewhat as well too. DJ, go ahead. You got it.
Sorry to interrupt, News. You know I don't usually do it, but I missed what he said. Could you just tell me what he said?
Well, he was saying basically that that basically we should be able to get the mines and stuff like that in terms of in terms of, I guess, almost like reparations. We get the mine and the mineral rights and everything from some of those places that the ancestors would have been taken from, which would make sense right there. If America arranged it, whatever he said, with Trump went ahead and used almost military power and force, say, you know what, pretty much we're taking these, and the actual mineral wealth is going to actually go to Black Americans. That would be something that would be unprecedented, to be honest, if that actually did something like that took place. Go ahead, DJ, you got it.
Yeah, Xander was definitely spinning. Shout out to Black State. You already know. Come up on social, y'all come to our black majority state communities. Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you though on that. Sort of, they shouldn't get anything for colonization either, for the simple fact you sold us. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, meaning it's karma. And it was someone else. As a matter of fact,
but the only problem with that is that okay, you got the people on West Africa and a few nations, maybe a few empires in Central Africa that may have took place, but all of North Africa, all of South Africa, all of East Africa, that they did fall under colonialism as well too. So that's the only issue right there. You're saying that they don't deserve anything, and they didn't particularly have anything to do with the actual transatlantic slave trade?
Well, okay, and with that being said, the answer still will be no, because for the simple fact, the UN or whatever world court would do the exact same thing they did to our people just recently in Tulsa. You will have to prove a but-for that you were harmed. Even though it's on record you were harmed.
You could prove that easy. They could prove that easily. They were harmed, no?
Nothing anyway. But to say, hey, like I said, and look, we're specifically talking reparations. Key word here, so I want to stay on that. The only people in Africa that could lay claim to something like that, you know what I'm saying? That's like, this is really on record, B. It's the Congolese, yo. You know what I mean? They was getting their feet and hands chopped off. And the Belgians make fun of that to this day. You feel what I'm saying? A lot of countries like Nigeria didn't even exist, even when slavery ended here in the West. You feel what I'm saying? Those countries are new, post-1900s. So what should they get? Now, when you talk about colonization, I think what we're talking about nowadays is just like, like McCall said, you've been spending the last 7,000 years sucking up to the colonizer or whatever. You can't get your stuff together, you know what I'm saying, for whatever reason, you know what I mean? And I see somebody trying to come up. I got you twisted. You can't get your stuff together for whatever reason. Now, the other thing we got to talk about when we say, hey, slavery in Africa and like colonization, and look, let's skip over the slavery because it's really more about the colonization. Don't forget, just like over here, you have black leaders, the Boule, that sell out the people. So what Africans need to do, because Xander, you are right, they have the vast majority, you need to step to your leaders and say, hey, look, we the ones with the resources and the minerals, you know what I'm saying, and all this other stuff, and you woo-de-woo. We need higher prices for our steel, for our oil, our fruits and vegetables. We need to be competing, because I'm on this business stuff, with the world market. So in reality, if you pay attention to what I'm gonna call him Big Bro General, Burkina Faso General. Can't think his name right now, but yeah, Big Bro, you know what I'm saying? The homie right there. Yeah, that's right. Hey, France, you gotta go, bro. Ain't no paperwork was signed. We ain't had to speak to you. Tell your embassy folks to be at the airport at 6 o'clock and now we lighting everybody up and arresting them. And look, France, what's French President Macron? He look like a sucker right now. Straight lollipop, tootsie pop out sucker. You know what I'm saying? He can't do nothing. And then what happened after that? I can't think of the other. It's like 2 other surrounding countries. They follow suit. So in reality, things are actually changing, and they're not really colonized like they think they are in the mind. You feel what I'm saying? Because it's 2025. The world is open. You know, and YouTube, all this other stuff. You could go online and go wherever you want to go. Hit JM Luxury Travels up. Don't say you can try to fly somewhere. So with that being said, they will have to prove they were actually harmed. Like we're trying to prove we were harmed. Because in my opinion, based off the everything we've been dealing with over the last 3-4 years, my personal life experience dealing with the Tetherknackers, no more so than the Africans. You feel what I'm saying? I just actually helped an African, my ex-neighbor. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all know I've been dealing with a living situation. I actually took him around to different peoples and asked around how he could get citizenship. And the reason for that is his own cousin did him dirty. You know what I'm saying? Didn't help him, become a citizen here in that sense, like his cousin is. You know what I mean? That ain't fair. And then your cousin pretty much a slave and you paying you slave wages, living in this little ass one room apartment. Thank God you got a place to live because most folks don't. You feel what I'm saying? But like, damn, you're not asking these questions to your cousin on how to pay taxes, vote, be a part of the infrastructure of America. And that's what a lot of these illegals just don't do. That's been here 20, 30, 40 years. He was already here about 4 years. He was getting frustrated. I want to go back home. My kid's getting older. You know what I'm saying? My kid in high school probably about to graduate in a year or 2. If you go back now, you might not even make it back, bro. He wasn't even understanding when I'm saying this stuff to him. He was like, why you saying that? Man, your embassy might put you in the dirt, bro. They may not want you to come back home and say whatever. You feel what I'm saying? How you know you even may make it back home? And then you're going back, you ain't got nothing because your cousin been stiffing you this whole time. I had to explain this to him, man. He was in the car for like an hour or 2 just talking about this stuff, yo. He woke up, though. You know what I'm saying? Thank God for that. So, best wishes to him. You already here. If you go back now, you're going with nothing. At least if you is going to go back and turn yourself into the MC, because that's what he was about to do. I said, bro, that's like me turning myself into the police when I ain't really commit that type of crime. Okay, I stole some chips from the store. You about to just go to the neighbor. I took the quarterback of chips. You ain't doing that, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, if these folks were his cousin was already over. He'd been here for a couple years, a couple decades. You didn't tell your own flesh and blood how to get it, B? Nah, they don't deserve anything, dog, in my eyes. You feel what I'm saying? And this ain't no disrespect to anyone or what someone should or shouldn't deserve, because that ain't my goal. No, I ain't the Lord. You feel what I'm saying? That's through whatever powers that be. But at the end of the day, don't talk about reparations. And this is the real problem with everyone just mentioning reparations, bro. Everyone talking about reparations because we're talking about reparations. And that's something we have been talking about post 1865. So the conversation is not new. We still haven't gotten a slave rescue ship. They don't talk to us in that light. We don't speak to them in that light, even though we acknowledge everything about Africa. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, until them, and I know, they got these articles of them trying to reach out saying, come back to Ghana and Nigeria and all this other stuff, and there are countries in Africa that do have open passage, or could get citizenship, and move how you want to move over there. You know what I'm saying? So go back home in that sense. You know what I mean? But I think it was Twizzle question. He was like, well, you kidnapping all these people, bringing them over here. How is that even possible? Whoever said that? Well, the narrative on that is, and this shout out to Dan Calloway, they weren't kidnapping the adults. They were kidnapping the kids. Because how else would you be able to manipulate me with a book? You feel what I'm saying? That we wrote, or whoever wrote, you know what I'm saying? More or less. And try to spin it. And then next thing you know, while we down brand, what they say, the colonizer came with that Bible. That's how they took the land. You know
They had to kidnap some They had to kidnap some grown-ups too, though, man, to do that work out there on plantations and stuff.
Not saying that. We're not saying that. Now those now look, go watch the Woman King. So when you say kidnap, more or less so, and the ones that were kidnapped, I think, in my opinion, now from doing like certain little research, that was like, you know, anyone that was coming from these European countries, because now it's like the gold rush. Now you see it. So now we're going to jump in. Hey, you know, you got your gang. You know what I'm saying? This Newstoter gang. You got the Black State Crew. You know what I'm saying? FBA Naggers, 808s, whoever. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we about to go do the same thing, David. You coming back with all this plunder? They're Vikings, bro. You feel what I'm saying? The colonizers. You know what I'm saying? What's the stuff we love from Game of Thrones and Vikings?
By kidnap, I'm saying that if you had a tribe, they committed a raid that's on somebody at nighttime, raided that village or something like that, and they took people back with them and stuff to sell to the Europeans.
No, those people should be paid, especially if that's provable, just like the Congolese. But okay, let's talk about.
But what I'm saying is I'm not even talking about the transatlantic slave. I know they mentioned the transatlantic slave trade. Like I said earlier, like I think that's too wide, and I think they participate in that too much, really. But colonization, where you had a lot of groups that didn't participate in it like you did with the transatlantic slave trade, because, like I said, you had a lot of groups that wasn't even in West Africa that when the slave trade took place. Those groups, you got a bunch of countries and stuff like that, or you got these kingdoms that got meshed together and people got pretty much enslaved on their own land. I think those people are due some justice and some money, personally.
Right. If that's provable. And if it really happened like that, then yeah, that's messed up. Give them all the money. You might as well sign over all your country to that particular tribe, whatever. But again, when it comes to this conversation about reparations, don't be saying that, because that's our word. You know what I'm saying? At this point in the game, you know what I'm saying? And what I mean by saying that is we are the ones that are moving the needles to say, hey, look, you should now compensate us, the descendants of our elders and ancestors that you harmed in 2025. Remember, the whole year return was a scam, bro. That's already been proven. Black Americans gave Africans $1 billion in 1 year during that year return. What do we get up out of that since then? Let's also talk about, and then not to say this is everywhere in Africa, we're not talking everywhere. We just talk about what more or less spots our people repatriate to. You feel what I'm saying? They get targeted, robbed, unalived, bro. Because they're American. They don't look at us the same people. And not to say this is all of them. I'm just saying this is like, maybe 90%. When you go online and say, hey, YouTube Africans versus Black Americans conversation, just to keep it simple, right? Or what Africans think about Black Americans. Oh my God, bro. You want to give these people what? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, if you some weird tribe group, you know what I'm saying? Some pygmy people that was just minding your own business, throwing spears at the boar, well, not the white boars, but an actual boar, a pig in the wilderness, yeah, you should get compensated, because, I can't think of that one tribe that they don't allow nobody to come to their island. They kill everybody, even they people that look like, melanated. You know what I'm saying? Because they know you ain't them. You know what I'm saying? Rightfully so. Kick them people off your land. Say, South Africa, you ain't got to put no harm to these white boys, because you ain't, they know they can't really beat you without the gun. You know what I'm saying? They can't beat you without the gun. All you got to do is say, yo, we just taking it. We could be confiscating this. What they call an asset forfeiture. You know what I'm saying? America do that to us. So when we say, hey, reparations, you got to come talk to us first at the end of the day, because we are the ones that's moving the needle for this stuff. And I'm going to land here because I don't want to be knocking about him. Don't forget, Malcolm X went to the UN, and he also went to other African countries and asked them, hey, we need some help over here. Can you help us? We trying to get this, that, and the third. You feel what I'm saying? Hey, we got our own problems, man. Oh, really? You feel what I'm saying? All right. You know what I mean? Yeah, there you go.
All right. Let me go ahead and get to Ray. Ray, what's going on tonight?
What's up, News? How y'all doing tonight?
Hey, what's up now?
Good.
DJ, you're thinking of the people of North Sentinel Island.
There you go. What's their tribe group name, yo?
The Sentinelese? I don't know.
Yeah, they got an actual name, but that's the area they in.
I know it's like by the Bay of Bengal or something like that. I'm not looking at a map, but I believe that's what it is. But the reason why I'm gonna be real brief, news, and I'm sorry. Even though I have been to space, I'm working on my homework. I got a little 12-page paper that's due in 3 hours, so I've been honestly more focused on that than the space. But I want to pop in, to give you some viewers. So, real quick question. So it says African Union demands reparations for slavery and colony. Are they saying that they want money from us?
No, I didn't hear them say. In the paper, in the article I read, it didn't mention exactly who it was, but we're assuming that they're talking about the Western nations. I wouldn't think it'd be America. I know Viral said that Ethiopia included America, but America didn't colonize Africa, and it didn't. The slave trade itself was already going by the time it became a nation. So I don't know exactly. If they are saying America, I don't know anything about it, Ray.
No, that's what I wanted to just double check on, because I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But I'm a land right there, brother. I'm glad you was able to answer that for me. Thank you.
Now they could, they could. I don't know, but we'll find out. But I'm assuming, I would think, especially when you talk about colonialism, we know it was Western Europe that just split it all up and took and did whatever they wanted to, as well as the actual slave trade. Now we know America did they did import slaves over here as well too, but like I said, I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest, and I'll try to find out to be exact. I know Viral said that they Ethiopia's prime minister included America, which to me was crazy, but okay.
No, because I seen it just the African Union demands reparations for slavery. So I'm thinking, I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, are they trying to say you stole our relatives and that's why we're demanding slavery? Because again, I wasn't in here when you did that initial read of that, whatever, just the things that you read off. I was hoping they weren't trying to say, well, you stole our relatives and you broke up our families. That's why we demand reparations. Because if that was the case, they need the sugar, honey, iced tea beat out of them for that.
And that's what I said to me. And that's what I said to me. It makes more sense for them just to stick to the actual colonialism. When you start talking about the actual transatlantic slave trade and stuff like that, now you really muddying the waters up. When you're saying, I'm not exactly sure how they're gonna go about that, because any money that they get, a good portion of it, if not half or more of it, should actually come to the actual descendants who actually were caught up in the actual whose ancestors was caught up in it. So that money should actually come to the Americas, United States, the Caribbean, South America, Latin America, all of that as well too. So I don't know exactly how they would go about that. But I see we do have a P in here. P is African. A P is from West Africa as well too. So P, I don't know, because we're not gonna keep the space going too much longer. I want to get your opinion on this topic here tonight about the African Union and reparations for slavery and colonialism. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, first of all, let me say good evening to you and all protocols observed. Pretty much interesting to find this topic here, right? And
why so? Why are you interested in finding a topic here? We cover a lot of stuff in here.
Right. But I'm referencing members, on this panel, seem to be more concerned, like crying more than the bereaved. The last time I checked, some of the members here claim to be Indians, and they have no, lineage whatsoever that goes to Africa. Therefore, I was not expecting any type of connection whatsoever in the conversation. But for some reason, excuse me, they feel like they have some ancestral lineage that leads to Africa. But I'm gonna let that slide for another day. Now, African Union calling for reparations. It's in order, right? There's one thing requesting and one thing getting it. Now, why are they requesting for it? according to the AU, there are several factors, including, stealing the human capital against their will, i.e., stealing their people against their will. I recall none of my history lessons with regards to, quote unquote slave trade, where we ever taught that it was a slave trade. It was all about the stolen people. All right, the stolen people, and therefore, this will provide the true historical and empirical evidence as to what happened. Now, the good thing about this particular thing, Africa has put together the best historians they can find, the best legal team they can find on the continent and beyond, including Caribbeans, African Americans, Brazilian. It's a whole package of black folks that have come together to put that proposal together to make that request. So the true history of what happened, I believe that will come to the fore for all of us to know, whether it was the slave trade, as you guys were taught, or it was something else. Okay? Now, two, the issue of colonization, right? We all know, probably you may not know, that during the colonial era, they stole our resources, our gold, our diamonds, our bauxite, our manganese, our timber, all those things. They never paid a penny. And that's what they used to build Europe and the Americas. Therefore, for all that you've stolen, for all that you never paid a dime, for all that made you the first world, what we're saying is that it's time for you to pay what is due, which is fair. Now, thirdly, what they're saying is that every time that we've ever, been on the international market in terms of the natural resources of Africa, we've never been given a fair share. We're always, given peanuts, and we just have to go home with it. For that, you have profited a lot from the resources that we put on the international market, and so it's time for you to pay back. So these are the key components of which that they are standing on to request for what they call reparations. And I believe that it is fair and it is just. Now, on the other hand, right, if the Western world would want to say no, well, that would also be on them. Because at the end of the day, Africa has to leverage in this game. Right? In a multipolar polar environment, it's not a one-sided story like it used to be, where you think that you can sanction everybody. Those days are gone. Therefore, if Africa make a request and you say, hey, we're not going to honor your request, whatever that there is, Africa can say, okay, all right, we'll take our market somewhere. That's a fair deal. And now we start treating you the same way that once upon a time you treated us. We don't have to have contract or deals with you whatsoever. We can sell whoever we want to sell to. We can deal with whoever we want to deal with, and you can't do a damn thing about it. And then we shall see who's going to lose at the end of the day. So I think that Africa is standing on the fact that they have leverage, i.e., in terms of their natural resources and the lands that they have to make their bargain. And I think that reparation is about who has the bargaining chip or who has the leverage, and that's about it.
Wow. Are you serious? I mean, some of what you said I can understand, but what you're talking about, okay, let's just go back to the actual slave trade. You said that you were taught that they weren't doing the transatlantic slave trade, that the people were just stolen and kidnapped, that there was no slave trade. So I guess the slave trade concept comes from the Western teaching that it was a
means of justify why they did what they did. All right? If you say it was a trade, then you can find them culpable. But if you put the facts down, just like some of our chiefs who were against taking their people, they get slaughtered. Their heads were taken to European countries, right? So you can tell me it was a trade.
Okay. Let me finish. I'm gonna let you respond, but okay. I understand there were tribes, and there were some kingdoms that resisted and fought against it as well too. But I mean, we have to be honest here as well too. There were tribes and there were kingdoms that actually went along with it. Like you had the one chief, one king, a chief, whatever. I don't know if he was I can't remember which empire he was, but the Portuguese. He wrote a letter basically. When they were talking about stopping the slave trade, he was basically crying and whining, talking about it was a decree from God Almighty, and that that this trade needed to go on and this and that or whatever. You can't say that all of the people that got caught up in the transatlantic slave trade were kidnapped. A lot of it was actually business. You had tribes in there that worked and worked arm in arm with Europeans, because let's not forget now, for a while, Europeans couldn't go into the interior of Africa because of malaria and everything else as well too. So they had middlemen helping them. Just like when you had the sub-Saharan slave trade in East Africa and North Africa, you had Africans that assisted in that as well too. I mean, you have to just be honest. Like, I'm not saying every single solitary African, took part in these slave trades and stuff like that. But in the Western in West Africa, where you had certain tribes and kingdoms at war against each other, people were taken as prisoners of war and they were sold off. And that's where the vast majority of the actual, slaves came from. They were prisoners of war and they were sold off to the Europeans. The Africans felt like, hey, I'm killing two birds with one stone here. I'm getting rid of an enemy and I'm going to take, access to their land and stuff like that. What's that?
No, according to our history, that's way different. Okay, now first of all.
So you're saying that none of the tribes. So let me just get this clear real quick before you go on. You're saying that there were no kingdoms, there were no tribes, there were no villages that participated in the slave trade with Europeans. That's what you're telling us.
No, what happened was that there were intra-trade. Now, intra-trade was based on how do you call it, prisoners of war. Now, if we're prisoners of war, basically what happened was that you serve under the regime that captured you. But most of it were into their farms, right? You farm, you become their labor, you serve them to a point where they can decide that whether they will let you go or then they're going to end your life. Now, if you look at Ashantis, for example, right? The Ashantis went to war with some of the northern tribes. And at the end of the day, what happened was that the Ashantis, right, embraced those that they enslaved and put them in their kingdom. And also because the Northerners were that tall and huge, they started allowing them to sleep with their women so that they can build, strong army in the future. So it was along most of the coastal line. Now, in the involvement, I don't know if you have time, because this is the whole thing that, we want to bring it up, but I'm trying to give you bits and pieces of it. If you tell me that a king was crying that it was the will of God, because at that time we didn't even know the white God. Therefore, which Bible were you?
Well, this king had been baptized and had become a Christian. I can't remember his name, was Alfonso or whatever, but he had became a Christian underneath the Portuguese.
And he was educated enough to write that letter.
Yeah.
I can promise you. Okay, what I can promise you is that the few educated folks on the continent, largely they were all Fantis, my tribe, right? You can Google it and find out. Mains Kasaba and Jacob Wilson say, all right, these were those that fought against the colonization and used every trick and under their back to make sure that they outwit the British and other Europeans. Therefore, it cannot be factual for what you're saying. If you want to go with history, though, it's there. So, for example, the names that I mentioned to you, right? Universities are built in their names in honor for what they did. These were the few elites back then. So I don't know where this one is coming from. Who signed that paper to justify? What I know is, you see these castles that were used, right? They took these castles, they built these castles by taking the land from the chiefs, telling them that it was for business purposes. So the castles that you see that were used for the transportation or transporting the slaves were initially, right, meant for business purposes. That was the essence of which the chiefs gave them the land to build these castles. If the chiefs knew that that was what they were going to use for, they wouldn't have been giving the land person for to build the castles. And these are all documented stuff. If you go to the God tribe, it's there. Go to the Fanta tribe, it's there. That they never knew that that was what it was. And no chief, no leader was allowed to get into that castle or that fort, for that matter. Okay, because it was.
Well, up here, I mean, you have Africans. I mean, we've seen some Africans on YouTube and online and stuff who admitted, I mean, that their family owned slaves and that their families participated in the transatlantic slave trade and everything else. So you're saying that they're just making that up as well?
See, I move with more of institutions rather than individual talk, right? Everybody say what they want to say, as long as it makes them feel good. but I move with what the institutions say. What are the facts?
So the homies, were they not a slave trading kingdom?
No, the homies, right, dealt with slaves, but they were not selling slaves to white folks. What the white folks did, listen, like I said to you, right?
So you're saying that the homies weren't selling slaves to white folks?
No, they never did. However, what the homies went through was that the homies were threatened, were under the barrel of a gun to release them to the white folks. It was never an open slave trade like what you're talking about. And it was not just the Dahomis. It cut across other tribes. These white folks put guns and threatened chiefs and other folks by force to go to war and get all types of activities so they can get a chance to steal them. Okay? And murder them. And that's the reason why in Elmina, for example, where I'm from, right? They moved into Elmina. Most of the men were hunting and have gone to the farm. They burned houses, they killed the women, some were pregnant, and then they captured the men as many as they could.
And now, and for them to do all of this, wouldn't they have to have help from other Africans to show them where these tribes live at, to show them all these places?
You always have coons. You always have coons, all right? It's part and parcel of human nature. But say that a trade that is palpable for it is not.
So you're saying that the homies get a bad reputation then, because the homies are known as one of the most vicious slave trading people that was on the continent of Africa.
Listen, it's not even just the homies. Look, we had strong army teams at that time. I can mention what's the name? Kinagokoli. Kinagokoli was super vicious to his own people that when the people were escaping, right, they had to walk backwards so that they could not be traced. Because when you walk forward, they can just trace your footsteps, right? So they walked backwards to escape from Kinagokoli because he was that vicious. All right? So it was a battle for supremacy for kingdoms to rule over other kingdoms, which was expected, but it was never an open slave trade. Look, let me give you an example. When you find tribal marks, right, on people, you find it on some Africa, especially Ghana, those in the northern part, right? These tribal marks were a signal to say that when you see anybody of this mark, he's one of you, don't capture that person. Don't kill him. Grant that person refuge. So that was why people had tribal marks. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me go ahead real quick, Apia, because I got to get to some hands, because I'm not going to keep this space going open, because I know there's some people that want. I know Arinza had his hand up first, and Black Majority State Xander. So let me get to the hands up, and we're going to get ready to close it out for the night. So Arinza, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you. I heard what he said. I hear you, Apia. But here's the way I look at it. Even if what you say is true, that they didn't know, someone along the lines collaborated, because we're not the type of people to give ourselves freely like that. And even if I'm going to take your position and say that they did this unknowingly to the Black people on the African continent. If you have the historical documents that prove that they in fact did that, that's one thing. But you still have to have someone that acts as an intermediary. And you said that we're always having coons, quote unquote. This is one of the reasons why Black Americans have a trust issue with people from the African continent. Because if this happened to anyone who has a lineage across the transatlantic slave trade, who's to say that in modern day times we won't have a fair exchange with what's going on now? So you see what I'm saying? Somebody that writes articles, a journalist, who takes orders from an editor or Zionist or supremacist, will love to put us against you. You see what I'm saying? They're putting us in the same barrel to create a conflict, to create a distraction from us getting the money that we're owed here in the United States. Taking our narrative and inserting it in a historical timeline that's incomplete. Until you have enough information that shows that there was a discrepancy, but the discrepancy was between the people who brought the Africans to the now United States. You have an incomplete historical dialogue and a narrative that they took from us that is a bona fide legal arrangement for money for us to get here in the United States. It don't make sense. And the reason why it's making sense to us is because we are the children that were the descendants of child slavery. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not trying to say that what you're saying is wrong, Apaya. But what I am trying to say is that somebody that writes articles is intelligent enough to take our narrative and insert it in a place it doesn't belong. Until we get our money, we're not going to play that game. We're going to watch everything that they do over there. Because if they don't have the right. We're talking about a bunch of people who crossed the Atlantic Ocean, intermingled with the native Black Americans here, and now we got children. We have multiple lineages, including the African lineage of transatlantic slave trade. And it ticks me off to know that somebody has the audacity to take something that is directly related to us and apply it over there without a complete historical doctrine to back it up. Now,
how do you say in one breath that you become something else, and in another breath you feel that?
Okay, now you want to go there. All right, let me do this. Okay. You went there. Let me do it. Can I speak? Shut up. Here's the deal. No, let me speak.
Okay, one person at a time. Appeal, let. Okay, Appeal, let him finish real quick. Arenza, I'm gonna give you 45 seconds. We got to get to the other hands. Speakers, host, don't bring anybody else up because I'm trying to get up out of the space. So let people up with their hands up here speak, and we're gonna keep it at a time limit because I'm trying to end this space in a little bit. So, but go ahead, Arenza.
Okay, here's the deal, and I'm saying this on behalf of Black Americans that also have an African lineage, because I'm not going to let them get disrespected from what you are trying to imply. And I'm going to say it this way. I am FBA. I am proud of my Black American heritage here, indigenous to this country. But we have a lot of children who have mixed lineages. And I'm not going to allow anyone, including yourself, to disrespect those people. So when you said that, you threw it, I felt like you targeted that towards me. And I'm going to tell you this. This is a rule. I only have 45 seconds. I'm going to say this. And I posted this on my Twitter profile. If you are FBA and you marry someone or have a child with someone who's non-FBA, your offspring is also FBA. And that includes the situation with transatlantic slaves. And I'll land my plane. Prove me wrong.
First of all, if you are indigenous to the Americans, if you are not of African descent, let's keep it above. All right, that if you want, you can hold that, and take it to the bank and see how much you can cash out. Second of all, I was not referencing you in any shape or form because I barely listened to what. Hold your breath now. All right, I barely listened to whatever that you said. Now we're dealing with historical facts. It is not about how you feel and what the emotions tells you. That's why I said let's all be patient. All right, when the facts comes out, at the end of the day, we'll see what it is. Now imagine this. Right, I'm going to give you an example. All right, well, I'm going to give you an example. One of the things that the one key element that they used was the guns. Right, at some point, my people were so scared that the British would put a gun down, right, and then they would tell them that if you move, this gun will shoot you by default. And my people would just be there for 2 days. They would never move because they're scared that the gun will see them and shoot them by default. All right, so this was how bad. Sometimes we say that we laugh over it, but the reality is it was the guns, and that's the reason why when the Ashantis realized that okay, these guys own guns and we have to find a way to go around them, they set up the Colonization War and they defeated the British. Maybe you've not read about that part. We killed over 1,000 British in Ashanti Kingdom. All right, and they moved to Central Region and we killed them, and they moved all the way to Nigeria. Then what was the name there? all right, and they brought in more guys before they were able to defeat the Ashantis. So you have to put things in perspective. It is not how you feel, it's what the facts say, and that's what I'm going by.
All right, thank you. Let me go ahead and get the Black majority state. Black, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Okay, thanks for allowing me to speak. So I like to start saying Africa for the Africans. They're fourth-class citizens on their own land because they got the Europeans above them, they got the Arabs above them, they got the Chinese above them. So they got a lot of things that they need to be concerned about. But in terms of this conversation, I'm going to look at the history. So what happened to the natives over here when they encountered the Europeans? They were genocided almost to not existing anymore. What happened over there when they got guns? Yeah, they fought against the Europeans, but then they quickly turned the guns on each other, and their civil wars, they have killed tens of millions of their own people. When I see stuff like that, and that's recent history, when I see stuff like that, that tells me that they're quick to turn upon each other, and the skin complexion has nothing to do with it. But this is the other interesting thing. These soliloquies, which sound like lies, if I'm being really honest.
Okay, Apia, don't interrupt anybody while they're speaking now. Go ahead, Black.
Yeah, so they sound like complete lies, and it's hard to listen to somebody who is either dangerously unaware or doesn't have an historical perspective. We landed on this continent with the Europeans in the early 1500s. The United States of America stopped the so-called slave trade in 1808. So that's 300 years. That's 300 years, and only 388,000 of those so-called Africans made it over here. So then the question becomes, what was going on where the others ended up in Brazil and South America and Central America and the Caribbeans? You may find some anecdotal cases where a few Africans held their ground, but the reality is that it was a free-for-all, and the only way that happens is if the natives are complicit, because if they're not complicit, they get eradicated, they get genocided, because that's the history of every time any indigenous population encountered the European, and I'll just land with that.
All right, then let me respond.
No. I got it. No. I got to get to the hands. Yeah, I got to get to the hands, Apia. Let me get to original. Original, go ahead and unmute your mic. And everybody, I'm giving the speakers 2 to 3 minutes. Well, go ahead, original. My bad, I ain't mean to hit the mute button.
Okay. Hey, Newstoter, did you discuss what the Prime Minister of Ethiopia said?
No, I didn't. You talking what he said years ago about Black Americans or something?
Yeah, about us being lazy and talking about how well the Jews was doing and this, that, and whatever. And now here he spoke at that conference, and they're talking about reparations. See, again, these people, they four-faced it. I don't believe them, because see, why you gonna talk about us, calling us out of our name, and here you go, when we get our thing popping over here, they're using a lot of our language, trying to say that they deserve reparation and this, that, and whatever. And it sounds like they might be trying to say that they want to get the money and decide who gets the money. I have no trust in that. And this is why, I'm sorry, say it again. There you go. Yeah. And so this is why, there will probably never be like what you call this unity that people keep alluding to, because we can't trust them. But I don't trust them to be over anything that we're doing. And now that we got everything popping and going on, and all of a sudden now here they come. So I just want to make sure that got in there, because these people, they don't have any loyalty or likeness for us. And I don't care who get mad because of what I said, but that's just the damn truth. And so
We got to move and do things for us, and that's why it is very important that we delineate it from these people here. Because see, initially they were saying we wasn't going to get anything, and when they made it based on lineage, then they started saying that they was black and they'll be I mean their whole process is jacked up. It is their process is not for us. We need to concentrate on what we need to do for ourselves and go from there, because I'm not wasting my time. Just like what Black Majority said. They had, in order for that to happen, they had to be complicit. No, there was no other way it could have happened without them being complicit, and they know this, and they want to see all these things about what they didn't know and this that. Somebody just still a gun up there. I mean,
original. Let me go ahead. I gotta move it, but I appreciate you coming up here. Let me get to Xander, and then I'm gonna get to the general. Xander, you got it real quick.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
One thing that gets to me when I started hearing these melanated people from the diaspora, they want to try to talk about some history and explain to us how we might have got this wrong, got that wrong. They're the ones that got it wrong. Because what's the excuse today? I'm seeing a bunch of this Sambo mentality today from a bunch of these black folks in the diaspora. No black, no black. So now, and then, like I said, you go, like, see, it's making people, to be honest with you, when we go, whenever I go to hearing some black person from the diaspora or melanated person from the diaspora go to talking that stupid in black American spaces, you're going to mess around and get touched. Because, see, look, we're dealing with an enemy that don't give a damn. And when you get a bunch of these melanated monkeys from the diaspora start coming over here, making excuses, copping pleas, really trying to give us a historical lesson. See, we can see you today. And from here on out, like I said, just start doing what we tell you to do if you want to be involved in this at all. Because see, we run in the yard now, and nobody else is qualified. So from today, or if you have any melanated person from the diaspora calling themselves wanting to be on team Black American or talking about some camaraderie or let's work together, start by following damn instructions. Now,
all right, thank you, Xander. Let me go ahead and get to the. I don't know who that was. Let me get to the general. General, go ahead. Unmute your mic.
Put your hand down. Yeah. First of all, the historical timeline that's going on, just like most of these countries, they ask about reparations and all that and using us as a format. And these countries was put together, if you look at it, most of them is 1900s. Some of them 1920s and stuff like that. There was empires there first. And before there was empire, and when there was empires, there it was a lot of clans and little smaller nations, and at that time, like it's in the 1500s, it was like 10,000 tribes and sects. Now it was only 3,000, so that shows that they was tribal, they was going against each other, then they want to be a complicit and talk about all them shores got castles on them. Them castles are still standing. So people, you want us to believe that they were marched inside the middle of Africa, and it wasn't no planes and nothing at that time, and people were just took from the middle and was days to go to the end of Africa and nobody saw it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. And to anchor us in is very disrespectful, disingenuous. They still got markers over there when it was showing that they were selling people for umbrellas, bottle caps, and all types of stuff. So
a mirror. They told your ancestors for a mirror, bro.
Yeah. So it's real ridiculous. And they got it for how many slaves they got. 10 people for one umbrella. And stuff, you know what I'm saying? Those empires and tribes and kings that was doing that. You know what I'm saying? So we could say, yeah, not all all people was a part of it, but not all people was the ruling class either. You know, and so trying to say that we we the same and y'all lost out and we were stolen from y'all, it's just insane and not ingenuous. And for him to be talking like that, they either make us further step away and not even trust them from the diaspora. You know, that's why that African American, they need to scrap that. We may have some African DNA, you know what I'm saying, but our lineage, we are a whole different ethnic group over here now, and we don't have nothing associated with y'all, the way y'all think, the way y'all act, and the way y'all move, because it's corruptive, especially when it comes to us.
All right, thank you, the general. Like I said before, to sit up here and say that none of the tribes participated in the transatlantic slave trade, it's just not true. I mean, I've never been one to say that the vast majority of that they was all over there selling each other and this and that. The vast majority of them wasn't, because, like I said, the tribes in South America and South Africa, North Africa, East Africa and stuff, they weren't participating in the transatlantic slave trade. Most of the ones in Central Africa wasn't, even though you did have some that were. So I'm not going to sit up here and say that all the tribes are participating in that they all participated in the transatlantic slave trade, but we know that there was a decent amount of membership of people who actually did participate in that slave trade. Those white folks weren't just, when they first came to Africa, the Portuguese and stuff, they just weren't walking all in the interior of Africa, just all nilly-willy and just, had a net and just scooping it over people and throwing it and just dragging them back to the boat. Come on, man. No, that it's trade. They had trade, and that's what it was. It was actual market for slaves. It was a market for slaves all over the world at that time. But, and I'm not going to sit up there and say they knew exactly the type of slavery they were selling people into, but they did participate in the slave trade. I mean, it just is what it is. And like I said, that's not saying that every kingdom or empire in West Africa participated in it, but you did have some participation. And it was just that, that's just what it was. And like I say, I'm not going to put the finger on everybody and this and that, but to sit up here and say, well, it was no trade and everybody was just kidnapped, unless, like you say, a few Toms or Coons or whatever. I mean, no, it was big business. You had a lot of tribes that got rich over there off of selling people in that area, in that region. They became wealthy. I mean, it's nothing to respond to because it's history. It's the truth.
Because you know what? When you say that they sold for mirrors and all that,
I didn't say mirrors. I didn't say that. Somebody else said that.
Yes, but let me tell you that indeed they were trade where people's please your background. They were trade where the white folks sold items to the black people there. Now it was not for humans. It was for ivory. It was for gold in return for blankets and other stuff. All right, people easily misconstrue the initial trade that was going on to mean that they brought in liquor for human beings and mirrors for human beings. That was not it. They came in as traders. They wanted to trade. All right, they bought pieces of land. They set up a market doing real trade. That was where they studied the Africans. That was where they realized their weakness.
We know this, Apia. We know the MO. We know they come in bearing gifts. We understand this. They did this out. Listen, Africa is not the only place in the world they did this to. Any place that had indigenous people all over the world, they came there bearing gifts, shaking hands, bringing spirits to drink. I mean, they did all of that. That was a way. That was a way of infiltrating. We understood this.
Yes, I get it. But when you say that they sold them for mirrors and shoes,
I didn't. Well, listen, you're putting words in my mouth because I never said that.
No, I'm not referencing you. No, sorry if I felt that way. I'm not referencing you. The gentleman that spoke before you or so, right? Now, see, I've been very, very respectful, right? But the folks that spoke have been very, very disrespectful, all right? And I keep saying, look, guys, you don't have more bars than I do. All right.
Well, now Apia, now you did come in. Now you did come in talking about. You did come in talking about people. You did come in. you did come in. I got to mute you now. You did come in talking about people being Indians and this and that or whatever. So we let it slide so you can come on up here and speak. So you did. I mean, come on now. You came in here throwing your own bars before anybody said anything to you. Now you come on now. Don't do that. Don't be one of them kids that punch somebody and steal on them, and then when somebody hit them back, they like, damn, why you hit me? Like, come on now. You know what's up. You did do that.
You crazy, B. You know what I'm saying? When an African start rapping in the beat fire, hell no.
But yeah, I mean, and it's getting late up here, so we may, we'll have to go ahead and carry this discussion another time. But you can't. And DJ said he finna have a space, so you can't get upset when people hear you say that. Hey, basically the Africans, everybody was just. You're talking about the reparations. You're saying, well, yeah, they should get reparations for the transatlantic slave trade because their people were just taken, ripped off their land, and this. And in some instances, that's the absolute truth. That is true. You did have some Europeans come over there and just snatch some people up that was close enough to the shore, snatch them up themselves. But in a lot of instances, they had help. They had middlemen. It was a trade. And if you know about trade, there's always going to be middlemen, and there's always going to be, higher ups and everything else like that as well too. It was an elaborate trade, and think about it, the trade went on for hundreds of years there. Yeah, you extracting gold, ivory, like you said, yeah. So it was like,
hey, look, onomatopoeia, man. No offense, but we do preserve the right as Black Americans to tell you to buy soap and deodorant.
Okay.
Land right there.
All right. On that note, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna shut it down for the night. But shout out and peace to everybody coming in, and we will see you guys either tomorrow or Thursday. So peace. And join the late night space with DJ and Professor Pia, or I don't know if Pia gonna come over there, guys, but join DJ and Professor. They're gonna continue the conversation. Peace.